Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 72 of Power Bombshells. I am Sam, and that is Mel. And normally, we're not your typical broads talking about your typical wrestling, but this week we have another honorary broad. And so we have Josiah joining us today.
I'm greatly honored to be an honorary broad today.
It is something that we bestow upon the people we love the most. So
This is true.
one of our Josiah and I got to hang out this week. So
You know, it's
We
really
did.
funny
Get
when
into that.
he told me that he was gonna meet up with you. I was like, Mel's meeting. I've known Josiah for several years, and I've never met him, but Mel is getting to meet him. And then I was like, but then Josiah's meeting my co-host that I've never met before in person. So I was
wrestling's weird. It comes around. Like one day we'll all end up in the same place, or some weird thing will happen, or so. See, Josiah is a faithful core member of the Fight Game Media heartbeat. And I mean, he's one of the reasons why as I tell Garrett all the time, that I knew that everyone could handle Discord, and that I really believed in the Fight Game Media group, because there's a really solid core there. People like Brad, people like Josiah. It's a lot of fun. It's a good community. So. But yeah, that was fun. And actually, I thought about this morning, because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't want to blow up his spot too much. But I mean, I know he's sick of people talking about it. But John Muse got hit by a water bottle at the Scrum, and I actually am like, more I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Other than the potential, I'm pretty sure Chris Jericho cost me a chance to hang out with John Muse in Toronto. So I have heat with Chris Jericho now.
Well, you should have heat with Chris Jericho.
I mean, fortunately, we're around the city. Same city.
Yeah, right.
Detroit, Rock City. But I mean, I was like, wait a minute. This is because, I think that went on for a long. He's my hero. I couldn't. I mean, I could have maybe sat through, but I mean, because he had questions to ask, but to get smashed in the face and then sit through the whole Scrum.
Yeah, I didn't realize it had happened, because I had turned on. I kept checking to see if the Scrum had started, and I was also watching the Fight Game post show, and so it hadn't started yet. And so when I turned it on, I forget who was even on it. And so I missed everything with Jericho. And so I had no clue what happened until later. And I was like, what are people talking about? Because I didn't even know Jericho had been in the Scrum. And then I heard about it. And then I heard that it was John Muse. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, what in the world did I miss?
I had bits and pieces of the story. And then we downloaded Observer Radio for the ride back, was one of our downloads. And we listened to that quick. And I was like, everything makes sense now. It's like, gosh.
Thankfully, the AEW staff took care of him, and Jericho, of course, apologized afterwards as well. He was apparently did not really. Of course, he didn't mean to hit John Muse in the face with a water bottle.
I mean, this is it's been said, but the fact of the matter is that they are so lucky. And I mean, I hate to, because but I know he's okay from his own war. I know from him, he's all right.
Right.
He's a baseball coach.
Right.
He's been there. But the idea is they're lucky it was him and not any number of other people. And he took a serious hit. So he was sitting next to Denise, I mean, I think she's closer to my size. And if I took a water bottle to the face like that, I mean, in my case, you could legitimately re-injure something. And it's just
no, that would be terrible.
Anyway, that was the blood and guts, and every Scrum seems to have some drama associated with it.
Luckily, I was gonna say I've done the virtual ones, but the one Scrum I did in person,
that's probably smarter.
It was if they read, I would like to do the virtual Scrums. I did one in person. It was the first Double or Nothing back after the pandemic, and we were in this little room where not a room, it was like a practice field, and the fan was on, and it was so loud that we were having to yell over each other, and it was chaotic because we were just standing around the stage, and so there was no like he would basically just point at people, or just people would just start talking, and they were talking all over each other, and it was a mess in that sense, but there was no drama from any of the talent that was there, and no throwing of water bottles or anything like that.
Next time, one of the reporters will gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Exactly.
From what I'm told, from what I'm told, he kind of sold it, but he didn't oversell it.
Good.
And then he sat there. So, F you.
Well, he was a trooper, and instead just kept going. So good for him.
Everything's so exciting. It's like some crazy crap always tends to happen. Like there was a tiff in our. There's always a tiff in our section. There's always some people going after it at some point, or like in the parking lot, or I don't know. But I mean, beyond that, like the action in the arena was like 100,000 billion%. I saved this for you guys. I went on. So we're gonna talk about this. Oh wait, Patreon. Wait.
I was gonna add that on real quick because we had
do that.
We have a quick announcement to make for our guests. And I just in case, because Twitter keeps giving me a really hard time, and it gave me a really hard time last night. So I was like, I will screenshot it just in case. So my rate view won't be exceeded, because it was exceeded again. I was off that app from like 2 a.m. until almost 11, and it was still giving me a hard time. And I was like,
I had to go down alt to figure out what the F was going on, because I couldn't look at the Twitter track.
I could go under Powerbombshells, but I was trying not to do it too much, because I was like, I got to promote the show, and I don't want to be blocked. I don't want to be blocked from promoting our show.
I saw that yesterday, and I immediately deactivated my public account. I was like, I'm done.
I don't blame you.
I agree. I mean, that's fair. I mean,
that's what I told Nikki. I was like, is this what's going to finally push me over to Discord?
Well, I mean, if we're not going to be able to use it for the reach that it gives us, then what if we really can't? I mean, we can't get everybody's like posts up. Give me a break. Like, come on. Especially with the way that people comment on the videos and stuff that we post.
Yeah,
and,
right.
I mean, every time JD and Mike cut a promo, like the whole Fight Game Media, everything blows up. We need that stuff. We need those clicks, dang it.
Yes.
And JD and Mike trolling people usually generate some good ones. But
Dude, so they can win the free feed all they want to, and that's fine. And I'm happy with that. They don't have to be here in the trenches working the YouTube Gorgon algorithm. That's fine. I love that they win the free feed. I love that they have declared that they will dominate the free feed. But if they can bump the subscribers on the YouTube, then we'll talk.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
Okay, because that's how we're speaking in strong style, boys. We're over here working the real algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been podcasting for a decade. Okay, if someone clicks on your thing, that counts. They just click on it. If I accidentally play the next podcast after the podcast that I'm listening to, that's that counts as a download. Okay, so come on over here and get us some subscribers.
That's right.
We're throwing that gauntlet down.
I'll have to send JD and Mike. I have a group chat with them. I'll have to send it saying Mel has called you out.
Please.
Although I do appreciate their shout out to my husband, which was super sweet of them. He's also not on Discord, so you couldn't say thank you.
The announcement that I was going to make was
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No, it helps because they have stuff on the Patreon.
Yeah, that it does. We have we've over on the Fight Game Media Patreon for the month of July. It's going to be free to all non-subscribers, so that you can test out some of the content, and then of course after that you can decide if you want to pay the $5 a month. Each week they're going to make one of our shows free, available to everyone, and so that will be starting this week. So make sure that you go to patreon.com/fightgamemedia especially if you are a non-subscriber, and you can get some of that for free. Definitely tell your friends and family, and if people can see your tweets, try that. to let the people know.
Definitely. I mean, some people are still on Facebook. Like, you know, you can get your grandma to go on over and like subscribe to the YouTube. And I mean, listen, I call JD and Mike out because I listen to their show every week. So I mean, so I'm one of those multiple clicks. And there's also, I mean, and the Boom and the Dynamite show.
There's so much content that we talk about, and that's why we tell you to subscribe to the YouTube page, because usually there's clips from all the shows, so then you can see what's on. You can listen to the clips on the YouTube page and then go subscribe. So this month you will get full shows for free, but make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube and have not subscribed yet, because that helps us, and it helps Speaking of Strong Style, and it just helps everybody at Fight Game Media in general. And so that is an easy, free way to help support us.
And if you need help navigating, if you need some suggests, here, go Hollow Boom and the Hook Awards.
Yes,
those are two excellent places to start. Wonderful content. Love James and Kevin over there at the Boom.
And if you want to dig into the archives to hear JD and Mike bury me in my Impact recaps every week, you go listen to Brace for Impact.
Oh yeah, Brace for Impact.
Remember that used to be a thing.
Yep.
Still the anchor. I mean, that's fine. They can anchor this. I can't think of better anchors.
I have been a guest on that one a few times as well. I've never been on a show with JD, but I've been on a show with Mike.
I've been on Brace for Impact a couple of times.
That's right, because you watch a lot of Impact, so
yeah, I do. Yes,
nope.
I fast forward through a lot of it, but I watch the things that I like.
I mean, it's worth it, guys. It's $5 a month, or I mean, even do what I do, which is like pay for the whole thing. It's taken care of, and you save a little tiny bit of money, and if you can, but flipping $5 our way, and that gets you also into the Patreon, get you into the Discord automatically without all the extra stuff, because we can, and be nice and enjoy the atmosphere there, because we're all awesome and fun, and we all like to give out to each other because we all give out to each other and have a good time in the Discord, and we talk about wrestling a lot, obviously, and it's fun to fantasy book with your friends and talk about the silly stuff that's going on, and like some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. And I from the stadium was popping in on the thread occasionally if I could, like when there was downtime. Barely.
Oh, look, we have this is not a paid ad. We have Brad in the comments. If you're listening to this on audio, Brad says I pay yearly and you end up saving money on average, and it's worth it 100%. So
thank you, Brad.
That is from a happy user or subscriber to the Patreon. Josiah, what were you going to say?
Then you have in the small text underneath, paid for by Fight Game Media.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't. No, we can't. That was not a paid ad. So don't do that. They're like,
it's true, but Brad's a great guy, and he would not lie about that.
So take Brad's word for it. And Josiah, I believe you're a subscriber as well, right? Correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. See, okay. Don't want to put you. See, so
there
you have
you on shows.
People are going to subscribe and be like, Mel said that if I subscribe, I can be on a show.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be that simple. We're not just going to let you. We don't just let anyone in here.
And also, since we're talking about it, if you're rude in the comments of this YouTube show, you might get banned, because last week we've had a troll we've been dealing with on and off for a few weeks. We generally just let him talk to himself, but last week he made some inappropriate comments to my guests, who are also hosts on different shows over here on Fight Game Media. And the first one wasn't so bad. It was just kind of rude. And then he said something else. And apparently I caught it before everybody else saw it, because they were like, oh, I only saw the one thing. And I was like, no, he said something else. And he was very rude. And so I meant to put him in timeout, but banned him by mistake. So, which I guess is what it was meant, because though I was like, so if you're going to be rude to one thing to be rude to Mel and I, but if you're going to be rude to guests that we bring on, we're not going to have that here.
Yeah. I do the I'm one of the moderators for the F4W online Twitch, so Wrestling Observer Live and all their other shows.
Right.
And we constantly had the same rule. It's like, disagree with the hosts all you want, just don't be rude.
Yeah.
If you start to, and also if you're deliberately trolling just to bait people into arguments, we're going to ban you.
Yeah.
And I have laid the ban hammer many times, and it has been it's a thrill. No,
I can say he's not wrong.
Yeah, I was trying to hurry, and so I was like, oh, I'm just going to put him in timeout to quiet him down, because I was like, I don't want him to mess up the flow of the show. And then I saw it was like, has been banned, and I was like, well, I guess he deserves it because he's been trolling us for weeks, and he got mad at Mel and I for a topic we were talking about, and for some reason kept showing up, and then he'd show up under different names. And yeah, he was coming in under that, but then,
and I don't mind. Like, in my mind, it was like, all right, as long as he's not being hateful and inflammatory and being rude, and
we'll just ignore him. Everybody in the chat ignore him.
It just helps our algorithm. It helps our, people start tuning in, and that's great and that's fantastic. But the minute you start acting, listen.
Yeah.
The first rule of Progress Wrestling back in the day when I saw it here in Detroit, the first rule of Progress Wrestling is don't be a dick. And I think that that's a good, solid.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb for anything.
Like, this network is like full of really good people who are really cool, who make a lot of fun content, and it's insulting to them for you to come in here and act like a doofus to them. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I haven't finished completely. Not that I watched with the live chat, but I haven't finished completely because watching back. But I of course think that it was time. And
yeah, it was just once he crossed the line when he started going after my guests, I was like, nope, we're not. I'm not,
especially those guys.
Yeah.
I have a comical image in my head of both of you with like that fiend giant hammer that he pulled out in the head of stuff, and he tried to impale Seth Rollins with, which is apparently not a disqualification, but the smaller sledgehammer is. I'm not over that, by the way. I have not forgiven WWE for that.
I have issues.
I don't need to get on a rant about that.
But yeah, apparently I had that sledgehammer and just hit it. I was like, ooh, I hit it so hard that I didn't realize that I hit the ban. I thought I hit the timeout, but
that's excellent. You know what?
I was like, whoops. Yeah, because it said his ban.
Once you get through the first one, Sam.
I was like, whoops. Well, yeah, he was the first one. He deserved that one though. Like, he was just every week, and I was.
That's
just
good.
Like,
now, see, you got through your first one. Now you know how to use the ban hammer.
This is true.
Like, it gives you Josiah is not wrong. Like, and you brave souls over there at F4W that do any kind of moderating for any kind of anything. I've been on left politics Twitter during the 2016 election. I've said that plenty of times, and I would rather do that again and mod the boards. It's like things like that.
Thank God that Brian put Observer Live behind the paywall again, because that eliminated like 90% of the trolls.
I'm sure it did.
Like it hit like every day.
That's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. It's like, come on, like, you're giving wrestling fans a bad name.
Right. Grace said the first one is the hardest.
Yeah. Well,
well, good. I'm glad I'm over that one then. And so
you've graduated like full-fledged. Like,
I did, and it happened. You weren't even here, and I had to deal with it.
I'm cynical now when it comes to it.
I believe in you so hard. Go ahead, Josiah.
I'm cynical now when it comes to the suspicious of new people in the chat. They come in and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to hit ban.
Who are you?
It makes it, and it made me, when you said that about giving wrestling fans a bad name, it made me think of the thing from what was it, Screen Rant the other day that was saying they're not going to do ratings. Showbuzz, yeah, that they're not doing ratings anymore. And they specifically called out wrestling fans, wrestling trolls in there. I'm like, how bad do you have to be that a publication like that specifically calls out wrestling.
And you know what I
trolls.
did?
Like,
Right.
I
giving
had
wrestling
an
fans a bad name.
I had an Insta react. You would have laughed in Discord. I had an Insta react because that happened like the day after I got home, and I was sitting there, and I Insta reacted like a total troll, and then realized I'd acted like a troll because of like I was talking to Ryan Frederick, who takes way too much shit online.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, yeah, that was stupid. And I'm like, I just did exactly what they were pointing at. I'm like, and see, now even I'm guilty of it too. It's like it's easy to get, but it really does suck because at the end of the day, it's like wrestling trolls are that bad. It's like that's how bad you guys have gotten. Get over it.
Wrestling is the only form of entertainment where fans argue ratings. Yes,
That is not true, Larry. That is not true.
Okay, Josiah, go ahead and tell us why.
I have seen ratings argued about TV shows forever, back on the old TV.com stuff. Like, they would argue about, well, it had this many viewers in the demo, but it had this many overall viewers. Do they not count? All this stuff. Oh, my gosh. And this was back for things like when Fringe, the TV show Fringe, was on the bubble of being canceled or not. And people were arguing, well, it has this many viewers, and other people were like, it's the demo that matters, which is true. It's the demo that matters the most. And that's always been true for TV.
The Save Our Show is people gone wild. Like it started out as it was like a cute campaign to save Party of Five, and then the internet blew up, and it turned into like.
I do think other shows are, I mean, there are those group of fans, but I don't think it's as widespread and tribalistic as wrestling. Wrestling is super tribalistic, and it's
very reflective of the world right now.
I absolutely hate ratings talk. I don't care. It's not going to change whether I watch. It's not going to affect me. I'm going to be watching AEW every single weekend. Ratings don't, just like star ratings don't mean really anything to me. I'm not going to watch a match just because it has this many stars, or I'm not going to be mad if they take I don't care about star ratings. I don't care about ratings. I'm going to watch what I like regardless of what people say. And so, I mean, of course, if there's buzz and be like, oh, you should go check out this match if you have a chance, then yeah, that's different. But then it's star rating or how many ratings of Raw having or SmackDown having more ratings than Rampage doesn't affect anything. I'm going to watch Rampage anyway. I don't watch WWE. It doesn't.
And what matters is the network they're on happy.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. And clearly they're happy with AEW because they gave him a third TV show.
2 more hours a week.
And and when we talk about star ratings and matches, nothing is more stupid to me than the discourse when Dave rates something and they argue or quibble over a quarter star. And for this, I know for a fact it's baffling for Dave. Like he's like, it's my opinion. It's a guide to if the match was good or not.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting over this?
And the very same people, I joke about this, has been an ongoing joke with a friend of mine forever because he's the one that got me into the Observer I like it as it's historical, but I read it as it's a piece of history for me. It's a piece of I love his bios on, people in the business because we're losing a generation of wrestlers that are the last bit of a weird generation. And I like the recaps and I like the news and I like the stuff, but it's not like I kind of phase out a little bit when it comes to the ratings part. I think his star ratings are interesting.
Yeah.
I think that but it amazes me, and I get the biggest kick out of the idea that there's all these people that are out in the world that are literally paying money. They're giving Dave their money so they can hate on him. I'm like, dude, you already lost.
Hey,
exactly.
I will say, if people will pay me money to trash talk me,
we have a rule over here because we can do the the super chat or whatever on here.
Yeah.
And we were like, if you want to say something negative and have us read it, you have to pay us $25. But that doesn't guarantee that we'll read it, because if it's racist or homophobic or sexist or anything like that, we determine whether we're going to read it or not. But if you want to say something mean, then you have to pay us $25 and you don't get it back regardless.
It's up to us.
That's our,
we get to
that's
moderate
our rule.
it.
Nobody has taken us up on it. So.
Nobody's taking us up on it.
But
if you
maybe,
want to say,
maybe
if you
we should
just give us a super chat because you like us, that's fine
that's
too.
also
I
cool.
mean, that it's not like only like we're just saying that if you want to be a troll, you're gonna have
maybe
to
we should have
it.
told our troll that, and maybe then he would have given us.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I like the fact that it was becoming a nuisance. I think that the band hammer was necessary in this one.
Maybe it was. That's why I'm mistakenly. So Brad says, "Oh yeah, whenever a show would get canceled, people would bring up CBS having less viewer ratings, but having less ratings but high viewership, and then talk about the age group." And Larry says, "I don't remember if people would argue about who had better ratings between ER and Chicago Hope, but I'm sure it probably happened. It probably because." If there's something for people to argue about, they will find a way to.
You want to know who the worst ones are before you read Brad's comment here, and I am just as guilty. NFL freaking nerds talking about salary caps and trades and free agency and armchair quarterbacking. They are like, although. One thing that's kind of cool about sports and the right group of and that's like why wrestling when you're like in the sports group of wrestling fans, like where they actually kind of have like other sports that they're interested in, is that for some reason though we can agree to disagree on things in a lot of spaces in sports. Like I've sat at bars with 49ers fans and we'll give each other shit
you're in
and
person
also
and in front of these people's faces. When you're online, then you're more than some people are more likely to.
I think some of the sports spaces are toxic, but there are at least more or less toxic discourse in sports spaces. But then again, NFL nerds, like, because they will forget ratings, they like start getting into it like over the salary cap. I'm like, brother, why are you debating about a millionaire's budget?
As one of my editors, Kevin, likes to say, billionaires are not your friends.
Right. I don't care about you.
I say that all the time. I'm like, yeah, billionaires are not your friends. They don't care
about you.
No, they don't
care.
So Brad said, I use star ratings the same way I do for movies to see how someone I follow rates something and how it might align with my opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
but you're a rational, logical, critical thinking human being, Brad. See, and the internet is the internet.
It's the funny thing is I write for I cover Impact for F4W Online and all that, and I disagree with Dave's ratings all the time. He rates some matches higher than I would and some lower, and you never see me talking about it online. Why? Because I don't care.
Because it's an opinion.
I actively disagree with him when I'm listening to his podcast in my kitchen where no one can hear me, including him. Right. Because I think that there are certain things that I love that people think that he attacks WWE and stuff. I'm like, Dave Meltzer is the biggest WWE defender in the universe. What are you talking about? It's only been over probably the last 18 months or so where he's finally been like, okay, I guess some of it's pretty freaking bad. And he still will like sit there and justify it sometimes where it's like, stop. Just stop.
He finds good in like every product he watches and like puts over the good. Yeah. And it's like we tell people to focus only on the good and not the bad, and that's what he does. And people get angry at him for it. Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah.
Wrestling things. So don't be a wrestling troll. Be a wrestling awesome fan who has fun like we did, and it's and like we do in our Patreon and our Discord.
And speaking of fun, Forbidden Door was fun.
That's what I was just about to just segue right on in and be like, we spent some time. Usually the first little bit of our show is usually talking about something like, well, sometimes it's like wrestling themed candles we will talk about, which speaking of, I do have my, because I wore my Hangman shirt, I lit my Anxious Millennial Cowboy candle from Koda's Crafts.
I should light mine too. I'm afraid it would get too hot in here because
I need to I had to turn off my ceiling fan first. I was like, "Oh, let me turn that off before that becomes a disaster." But I was like,
And
I mean, now that I had the Alex Shelley candle, and I've used it and can't anymore. And so since Alex won the title, I was like, I need to go order another Alex Shelley candle. And then now they have Coda has a hardcore wrestling themed candle, and it's supposed to smell like blood.
What?
Like one of the scents, yeah. Etsy.com. So Dakota's Magic Craft, where you can.
I just leave there. We put them over so much. I just leave their thing right in there.
And I think the other day when I was making banners, I may have accidentally deleted the Twitter handle for Coda. It's at Coda's Crafts. And we'll put that back up. That was my fault. I was trying to add. I hit something I wasn't. This is why Mel runs that part of things, because apparently I hit something and deleted it. But yeah, apparently I haven't smelled it, but yeah, apparently through the description that they have on Instagram and on Etsy, it is like it's like supposed to smell like blood.
Here's a candle. It smells like death.
Yeah, well, it is. It's like it's like the hardcore candle or something. And so I was like, I want to get it to see what it smells like.
Does it come in like a bar? Like, I know you couldn't do it liability, but I would print little like barbed wire around it or something.
I have to see what the labeling is for,
because you couldn't really. I mean,
Sid is the name of the person who runs Coda's Crafts, and Sid. Some of the candles they've made into soaps as well. So I don't think they've made I don't think they've made that one into it, because this candle's brand new. Like, it's only been out for like 2 months. So don't know if they've made a blood scented soap yet, which would be perfect for Halloween.
Do you want to bathe in the blood of your enemies?
Actually, yes, for Halloween.
Yes.
See, he's on. It's Halloween is coming up.
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah, Halloween's coming.
That is like Blood and Guts is coming up. Halloween is coming up.
Yep.
It all connects.
We will get to a match later. We're going to preview New Japan's Independence Day show. There's some matches on there that the candle and soap would be good for.
Oh, yes, there absolutely are.
Possibly after to clean the wounds afterwards.
Yeah, I was looking down those cards, putting that stuff together. I'm like, holy crap. This is a lot.
Stuff. But before we get to that, we'll get to a Forbidden Door. And that's why one of the reasons that Josiah is an honorary broad today, because Josiah was also in attendance besides Mel. So Sam was the only one not at that show last week. But
hashtag not in Toronto.
Yes, which I did. We do have a banner for that. I did make that to run in the show last week.
Awesome. I was wondering. I couldn't read your little bubble on my... So what happened when I popped in? This is hilarious. What happened? Nice.
See, I got it.
Fantastic.
I did the little picture like we did for when we were like, me and Mel were like, I think it was who was it, Paul, or like it was me.
No,
and Mel,
it was Jeff Hawkins.
That's right. We were like the only ones.
It's
not
like
in
3 years ago now. It's been going on for that long. Because we were the only 3 people not at Double or Nothing.
Yeah,
and so we were basically like running the network. So we went wild.
Pretty much.
And I mean, since we're already approved, and I mean, that probably set us up as approved babysitters of Jeff, and that's why we were okay to
That
go.
is true.
That's another reason you could subscribe to the Patreon, because you could go listen to us babysitting Jeff back in the day. So
we babysat him a couple of weeks ago.
It was in January because it was over my birthday.
That's right.
So
yes.
And then those were a lot of fun. So.
And so Mel has made the round. Speaking of Patreon, Mel has made the rounds on some Fight Game Media shows this week, talking about her Forbidden Door experience. But she's gonna talk to you guys about that as well, and so is Josiah. And so, Josiah, what did you think of the show overall?
I thought the show was awesome. Overall, I easily the best wrestling show I've ever been to in person. I had so much fun. The next closest was probably NXT Toronto.
Nice.
That would have been before that. That featured DIY versus the Revival, FTR.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
2 out of 3, and the main event was Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura, and Mickie James and Asuka as well, I believe, was a match on it.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really great card.
Definitely. No wonder you had fun at that one.
And the next night was Survivor Series with Goldberg and Lesnar, and when Goldberg squashed Lesnar in a minute, and I admit at that show, the little kid in me, that's where I marked out the most because I immediately went back to being 10 or 11 years old, seeing Goldberg kill people in WCW, and I was jumping up and down, screaming as he was destroying Lesnar. That angle worked for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because that's what I was telling. I've talked to Mel about that before. It was fun because like for a long time, like I was the kid, I did not know that Goldberg's streak was not real for a really long time, and so like I bought into it, and so I do have like I loved Goldberg when I was younger. Like I was like, I don't necessarily want to see him wrestle now. It sounds like Tony has had conversations with him. He admitted because at first he would like on the media calls, he'd be like, "Well, we talk about it, you know, other things. I like him. He's a nice person." But then the last media call, he was like, he basically was like, "Yeah, we've talked about having a match." And so I assume where there's smoke, there is fire. I don't necessarily want to see it, but on the other hand, 14-year-old me is really excited about it. Probably, but
keep it less than 5 minutes and lots of destruction. That's all.
Just give me. I don't need anything fancy. Just give me a couple of spears. It depends on who his opponent is too. Like I don't want him out here like wrecking Sting.
No.
I don't want that.
It has to be like it's as crazy as Peter Avalon or something like that. Like,
right? Yeah.
Crush him. And that would be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Mel, I think we lost your audio.
No, I muted myself because I was clicking through things and I didn't want you guys to be like hearing me going click, 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 click because, you know, it's so professional when that happens.
Well, we're very professional.
We are the proest of them all. And I did go on. Let's try this again. I did go on Speaking of Strong Style this past Tuesday, and that's on this channel, so you can check that out, and then you can get my thoughts, because they kind of did their recap show, and they had me on with them and everything. Right. And yeah, I got my more in-depth thoughts. I'm going to do more fun stuff, but I did not give them everything, because one of the things I saved for you guys, for Sam, especially.
The Okada buck.
What am I talking about? Bob was able, as they were sweeping them up and throwing them away, because they are absolutely like so.
How dare you throw them away? Go sell them on Etsy. Are you crazy?
I wanted one of those. Darn it.
Bob, so he got one and he's like, "Can I get another one for my wife?" And they were like, "I don't know." And he's like, "She's right over there," and all this. So we got 2 Okada bucks.
Frame them. Put them in
exactly. They're gonna go in the back here.
Yes, you should. I was gonna say frame them and put it on the wall back there.
And also because
and then you should like date it, get a little thing, like get something to like put Forbidden Door 2 and like the date and the
getting a program or something. I was saying this to him today, and this reminded me, this is the other thing we got hard tickets from Collision.
Wow.
We took advantage of the cheap deal where it was by the floor and it was super cheap and it was way cheaper. Yeah. It cost us less to buy the whole thing than it would have for an individual seat. And so we did that, and then there was no one in there, and we went down and we were like, you know, can we just get, and they were like, how about right here? And they moved us to seats they were 2 rows closer than the seats we sat in the next night at the actual show.
That's so awesome.
We even got to scope out where we were. It's like all our pictures. I went with Bob's pictures because he's 6'2" and has that arm reach and can get better pictures than my little scrawny ass going like this. But
no, I feel you. I'm short too.
And I was like, you know what? I said to him today, we should get them to print us out because everything's digital.
Yeah,
but
I
have
one scrap sometimes hate
full of like tickets.
Yeah, I've got a ton of tickets from like when I was in my teenager and in my 20s.
We need to do this from now on. We need to get them to like, because they will do it if you ask them, and no one ever asks. And I was like, it's a cool way to get like a program or something physical, like bring home with you.
So you can put those in there with it. Awesome.
And I saved that for you, especially the Okada bucks. I was like, they were sitting here while I was going to show them. I'm like, no, I'm showing Sam those.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel very special. So thank you for saving that for me. Brad said, I bet those Okada dollars are worth a ton in Japan. You could buy a house with them over, there.
He does make it rain. He does.
And so it's fitting that we went with that picture for that slate for the show as Okada.
That was kind of why I was leaning that way. I was like,
I just thought it was a really cool photo. And then I was like, well, yeah, because we had said, because I don't want to spend time on it, but there was some really dumb Jon Moxley discourse the other day on Twitter. And so I was going to do the slate. That was going to be my only comment, was just a picture of Jon Moxley. I'm like, that's the comment. But then I was like, man, this Okada picture is really cool. And so I was like, Mel, what do you want to do? And she's like, let's do Okada. Now I know why.
Yeah.
I mean, always Okada.
It never gets old. I
mean, Okada's the best, so you could always do well by putting them up there.
Yeah.
But
this is my third time seeing Okada, and I am a blessed lady, and it never, ever gets old. It never gets old.
When that coin drops and you're in the arena,
my god,
it's like a superstar has arrived.
I've seen him. I've only seen him once. I saw him at All In, and it was incredible. And so, and that was just that was 5 years ago now. So but yeah,
I realized a lot of little things like that on this one, because I was like, oh, holy crap, because I was at MSG, and then we were at Forbidden Door last year, and then I was like, wow. And this is the first. I mean, his match with Bryan Danielson.
Well, it was already great, and then we find out afterwards, that Danielson wrestled for 10 minutes with what he thought was a fracture, and then it turns out a couple days later,
it's a full-blown broken arm.
It's a full-on, it's a full-on split. It's a clean break. And at the time during the scrum, they thought, okay, it's fractured, he'll be back for All In, but. Now they're going to have to make plans for just in case he's not available, because there's a very good chance he's not going to be available for All In or All Out, for that matter.
I suppose when we get to it later, I'll explain what the match was. Was like. But I watched it back on TV as well. I went back. I actually went and I bought the pay-per-view. I bought the pay-per-view because I paid for tickets to go to the show. Then I went home, and the next day I bought the pay-per-view to watch it again. So that should tell you how much I was pleased with this show.
Yeah.
I've been, so the three best shows I've been to is that NXT Takeover in Toronto, probably Ring of Honor and New Japan in Madison Square Garden, and then this show, Forbidden Door.
What was your favorite match on this show?
Omega and Ospreay.
Oh, the Omega and Ospreay.
No question.
That's one of the things I was going to bring up when we were talking about opinions and things like that. I'll ask you first, and then I'll say this. So for Josiah, I'll ask you first, and then Mel. So Josiah, out of those two matches that we've seen from Omega Ospreay this year, which one do you think was better, this one or the one from Wrestle Kingdom?
That is a hard choice because they're both so great. Either one of them is match of the year. That one of them is going to win match of the year. There's no question in my mind, because no one's going to top those. And I would say this one was slightly ahead.
Okay.
Slightly ahead, but not much. Like they were both so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And just next level storytelling and selling and. I think this match had more emotion attached to it because of the quality of the first one, and the story they were telling, which is Ospreay trying to. Well, the whole story in Japan right now is Will Ospreay cannot overcome Okada. That's been his story for years. He has beaten Okada before, but Okada, when it matters the most, is the man.
Right.
And then he decided to hit reset and go, well, if I can't beat Okada, I need to start beating the guy who beat Okada.
Right.
The Omega story.
Sure.
And Omega, of course, is saying, you didn't replace me. You failed in your job to be the top foreigner. Jay White is, not you.
Right.
And great storytelling from New Japan. People who think New Japan tells no stories, my goodness.
They do.
You're not paying attention.
Yeah. You're not paying. Yeah.
Their stories are awesome.
That's why I go to these shows.
Right.
I mean, it's because I mean, I love AEW for doing this, but it's the New Japan label. This is all about New Japan for me.
Sure.
They're my number one. I think that I probably said that before, and they are my number one.
Same.
Yeah, mine. They're mine too. For a while, AEW was like it was just kind of like a neck and neck, but it's New Japan. It's my.
Well, now that they're back to I mean, what they're doing.
Don't get me wrong. Like AEW is my favorite weekly show.
For sure. Yeah, totally.
And to say that New Japan is my favorite promotion is not a slight on AEW. AEW is fantastic.
Yeah.
But New Japan, just the way they tell their stories is so satisfying.
Yes. They like to finish the story over there.
In the end, they always.
Some of them are very long stories, but they eventually finish them.
But they always get you to where they want you to be.
Yeah.
And they always have that definitive moment at just the right time.
Yes.
So like when we get into the match with Omega and Ospreay, I suppose when we recap the whole show, that's not the end of that story. There's more to come.
Yeah.
Like even Ospreay was like, we may have to do it again on a bigger stage, which is either All In or Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, huge.
Mel, what did you think of? What was your? Was the last Sunday match better than Wrestle Kingdom, or would you say the Wrestle Kingdom match is better, or are they tied for you?
I haven't been able to watch it back on TV. I have it on my DVR. I just haven't. I was like, I needed to deflate a little.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, you need to digest all of it.
Like a little. Plus, I know the G1 is coming in a couple of weeks, and then this other thing, and so it's like I'm like, okay, spread it out.
I get it.
Like, but
I guess based off of first reaction, what would you say?
Because of being in the building and my that was the first. I think that. I mean, Jay White versus Okada was my favorite live match in Madison Square Garden, and it was no contest. And this is blown that away. I mean, it's I can't.
I can imagine.
And I never thought I would see. I mean, I can't believe how many great. I'm so lucky. I just can't even sometimes. But it was so all the big reactions that I've had to big Japanese singles matches that I love in the past, I had them all, and I was in the freaking building. I almost there was the one big near fall. I swear to God, it was almost jump out of my section. I mean, it was crazy. I've been to playoff games. I've been to all kinds. I don't think that the level of just everything, the whole freaking atmosphere, you can't. It's too much, and I think so. It'll end up, I think, slightly edging out because 1, I think, is probably the better match, but I think that 2 will be the better match for me because of being in the building. I think that takes it to another level for me a little bit.
I cannot describe how loud that building was.
Yeah.
At the kick out at 1 after the one winged angel from Ospreay on Omega.
Yes.
Yeah. The building was shaking.
Yes.
It was
He's not wrong.
so
loud. I saw people tweeting about that, and I was going to say that's the one time that I've experienced anything similar is when I was at All In and Cody Rhodes' music hit. I have never felt that type of energy before, that type of reaction, that type of the building just vibrating. And so that's I can imagine. Well, and that was just for Cody's entrance. So I can only imagine for that moment, that was probably what I felt at Cody times 10.
He's not kidding. I was almost, but I was literally it was. And I haven't felt that since Seattle Seahawks fans are out of control, and one of the things that they joke about is it's the loudest stadium in the thing, and I've been in the stadium and we've done the Richter scale thing and stuff. That's the only other stadium I've been in that actually has has shaken.
That's crazy.
There was that many people jumping up and down.
It was just
and I was one of them.
because we were all up and down at the same flipping time because we just couldn't believe. I mean, And I mean, it was so good. It was like the whole show was great, but this thing was, I mean,
unbelievable.
Right.
And like, this felt really special.
Yeah.
Really special. And the fact that it's a Canadian crowd for the most part, cheering on their Canadian hero Kenny Omega, and the roles are reversed with Ospreay being the heel. I do have a scoop about that. About
share that with us. I think we're just going to kind of hit things, so go ahead and share it if you would like to.
Sure.
Yeah, we're not doing like a full-on recap because I did that with the Speaking of Strong Style Boys. So if you want a full recap of my opinion on the entire card,
check it out. But Josiah, please feel free to share as much as you want because we want to get your thoughts. Because
your thoughts.
Go ahead.
So the heat Ospreay got for the Canadian flag spot in the building, so great. And
yeah, because I was like, I know that your other country's patriotism is a little bit different than American patriotism. Very different. And so I was like, because I saw it and I was like, oh God. And then I was like, wait, I was like, is that the Canadian reaction? Because I was like, I know in America what that reaction would be to an American for that happening. And I was like, but I know in other countries, but also Will has been trashing Canadians for the last few weeks on top of that.
One of the differences is after Kenny took him out, we didn't chant Canada, like the U.S. would USA. We chanted Kenny because Kenny was the hero defending Canada. Right. So it was. We are very patriotic in Canada. We love our country, but it's not the same as the U.S. It's not a blind
personality trait.
Right. And it's not a blind patriot.
Well put.
Our country is flawed. Our country is flawed, and so, but we love our country. But it's a very low key thing.
Right. Yeah.
I have a running joke with John, who we had on here a few weeks back with his art. And we have a running joke because every time he visits America, like we have the flag everywhere and he jokes with me about it every time. And so one of my favorite things to do is to, like, if I buy him something that he needs, I like to get the American flag one. Or because I bought him a little it was a scarfy thing that we bought him, and I made sure that it had the American flag. Or I'll point it out to him when he's in country, because I'm like, oh, and because we joke about the fact that, well, we're gonna forget where we are if we don't see it. But in my section, I will tell this story again, is that in my section, when they were doing that spot, I was like, oh my God, that's the meanest thing anyone's ever done with the Canadian flag. And the whole section around me laughs.
Because that's amazing. Because like all of us Canadians would laugh at that. Because
exactly.
like we would boo it playfully, but we know it's part of the show, and we're not actually getting upset about it.
Right.
So we did boo it. It was real, but.
Yeah.
It wasn't part like we weren't truly angry at Ospreay, but it was like don't badmouth our country. But he was doing all the Shawn Michaels spots with Bret Hart.
Right.
There were so many references to other things in this match. All Japan, New Japan, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. So like this match, that's why, and of course Kenny being the Bret in that match versus Shawn being the Ospreay. But the scoop about that. So, Mel, when we went to the Wings place to get food, I mentioned how one of my friends from New Brunswick was going to be coming in, a professional wrestler, and he was going to join us for the dinner. And I got a text in the afternoon saying, so I can't make it to dinner, but it's for a good reason. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, I'm actually doing security for the show. So he got himself booked on the show.
Awesome. Cool.
But it wasn't security that he did. He was the one holding the Canadian flag when Will Ospreay took it.
Oh, so that was a plant.
It was a plant.
Okay, because we were talking about how Kenny gave the flag to the kids, and we were like, "What? That man's down there like that's my flag." And so now, okay.
Yeah, he messaged me after the show, and he said, "So that was me." And he said my job was very hard to do during that match because he was so into the match, right?
Right.
And, And when Omega got his foot on the ropes, he said that was the best rope break spot he's ever seen. Like the crowd was just on fire on fire at this
lit
point.
in there.
And then it got louder with the kick out from the one-winged angel.
Yeah.
I didn't think it could get any louder, and it did. And I have never marked out like that before.
Yeah, me either. That's honestly, that was a lot.
Yeah, and before I get to Brad's comment, I will say, so yeah, when I first watched it, like I of course thought it was great, but for me, Wrestle Kingdom was that match was better for me personally, and I had to tweet for me because it's the internet, and somebody was like, and he was telling me, he's like, well, you're entitled to your opinion. Literally, why I put in for me this match.
But that person always has to do that.
Yeah, and so I was like, I don't know what it is. I like the Callus stuff didn't bother me because I knew it was like, I know why it was there. It's for the story. Like the Callus stuff didn't bother me. I don't know what it was, just for me. And then I was telling, and I've watched the Wrestle Kingdom match twice because I watched it when Access showed it again like 2 weeks later, and so I was telling Nikki, I was like, I don't know if it's because I loved that match so much. But I was like, I haven't watched it since January. And so I don't know if I've built, because for me, that's still been my match of the year. And so I don't know if like, not that I've romanticized it, but that like, for whatever reason, like, I'm like, well, maybe that's why. And I was like, I want to go back and watch them like back to back maybe, or watch them close together. And then see, like, I would like to and watch the second one again, like, just and see, like, if my thoughts have changed or if I would still put the first one and again, like, I love the second one. I thought it was great, but just for me, the first one was my, and it's not because it's not because, and I was like, well, is it because Will Ospreay won? And I was like, well, no, that's not it. And I was like, and then people were like, well, maybe it's Don Callis. And I was like, no, I expected the Don Callis stuff, so that's not it. And so I was like, and I don't know. I was like, and so I do want to go back, and then I assume we're getting a third one, so then maybe I'll just watch the trilogy and then decide.
and I think the totality of it, once their story is done, the totality will mean a lot more than the individual
absolutely
parts.
Yeah,
it's just like the Omega Okada 4 matches. Like if you watch all 4 in sequence, you can see the story they were telling.
Yes.
And also I think they're hinting very strongly we're going to get a part 5 at some point.
Yeah, they definitely have done that.
Well, Okada has said goodbye and good night, quoting Omega recently, and New Japan does nothing by accident.
Oh no!
John, our friend John there said that he thinks Omega Okada 5 might be the main event at Wembley because
I've heard some people thinking that because they were like, if you're going to,
he was the first person to suggest it to me, and he made the point that, and it was a good point that I didn't think about until he said it, is that if you're going to go all in and you're going to sell out Wembley and you're going to do this show and you're going to please the European audience, that's the big, I mean, that's the, we almost got, and I'm like, oh, you're going to end up in the building for it. And I'm not, and I almost had it, but AEW started, dang it.
But because we would have had it at
Madison Square Garden. It would have been at, but
right,
that's okay.
And
I mean, in retrospect, you know what? I can't be greedy.
Is Omega Okada 5 bigger than Omega Ospreay 3 for London?
I think so.
With Will being from London, because Will is from I guess it's not a suburb, but he's from the London area, so he's the hometown boy. So
that's not just going to be a London crowd. It's going to be a European.
Well, that's true, but I'm just wondering, would that crowd be more into Will Ospreay than?
I think Ospreay has to be on the card in a prominent position.
Yeah, sure.
You would be insane not to have the hometown hero have a win in his hometown. Although really, it wasn't his hometown, but Kenny lost in Canada.
Sure,
but that's okay too. Like there's nothing wrong with that especially if you deliver the match that they had. Like like beating people in their hometown is typically not something you want to do or their home country. But when you do it the way they did it at this match, it didn't matter.
right. And maybe it was funny because last night on Collision they had Ethan Page come out and he's from Hamilton, and they had him wrestle MJF, and I was like, oh, they're gonna have him losing his in his hometown, they're going to do the WWE trope. And they did. I mean, obviously, because it was a title, it ended up being an impromptu title match. But it was
a half decent match, so because the two of them can both wrestle. I mean, they've had like one or two good matches every week on that show. I mean,
Collision's been very good.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like giant, awesome, enormous, like great, but there's at least been one or two good matches on there. I like hearing Kevin. I'm trying, like, I don't hate it or anything. It's some of the stuff I could have done without, but there's at least been one or two good matches on it. The one we saw, that Andrade match, was awesome. Like,
oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a
great
really good match. Yeah.
So
I love
plus we got to see Jay and Juice.
Yeah.
Which
and the 10-man tag that they did in Toronto with Punk and them, that was a great match.
Yeah.
Great match.
Yep.
I'd say this about Punk. Say whatever you will about everything that happened with him, which is his fault, most of it. I'd say 95% of it is his fault.
Sure.
But man, that guy's a great performer.
Yeah.
He is really, and I really enjoyed him on. I mean, I remember before hearing him when he would do commentary in WWE, and I really enjoyed what he was doing last night because he was really putting over Roddy, as in he was like, I've never beat Samoa Joe, that's a fact, and he still, of course, put over Samoa Joe, but he really put over Roddy. He was like, Roddy does this, and so I thought that was really cool of him to just be like, he made it like, I've never beaten Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe can do this and that, but Roddy does all of these things, and so he made it seem like it wasn't a foregone conclusion. I mean, we saw it. When we saw the brackets, we were like, oh well, we know where this is going to lead.
It's gonna be Punk and Joe, of course.
Yeah, which I want to see that match, but I would not do that in a tournament. I don't think that was the way to go.
That's a pay-per-view match, if you ask me.
Yes, exactly. That they should, if they were going to put it on Death Before Dishonor, if you want to do it soon.
Better idea.
I would have put it. I would have put it there and I would have had Roddy win last night and have Punk Roddy then, because I don't think Punk and Roddy did they wrestle? They've never wrestled each other, right? Yeah.
Roddy just came into Ring of Honor as Punk, so he would have been it was in 2004, and he came in as a part of Generation Next with Alex Shelley, Austin Aries, and Jack Evans, and he was a teammate with Jack Evans. So they may have had some matches with Cabana and Punk against him and Jack Evans. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But they wouldn't. I don't think they've had any singles matches because Punk.
And then of course in WWE he was gone, or Roddy would have still been at NXT. So I think their timing was off there too. So that would have been a first time matchup, which I think they could have done that in the tournament. But then I would have saved Joe and Punk for a pay-per-view. And I was like, if you're wanting to do it soon, because obviously they're doing the Jay story, because Jay White called him out last night, then I would do Death Before Dishonor, especially because it's ROH. It's an ROH story. It was one of the biggest ROH stories. So I would have done it there.
I think the first Ring of Honor show I watched was World Title Classic with CM Punk and Samoa Joe. Their 1 hour draw, their first one. And that was what got me into Ring of Honor in 2004. And I went back. I actually had them right here on my left. The first 2 years of ROH DVDs are right there. And it was because of CM Punk and Samoa Joe. So Ring of Honor has a very warm place in my heart because of that. They're probably why I'm still a wrestling fan. But I look at how Punk as a commentator. He did commentary for Ring of Honor during almost a lot of those DVDs.
Yeah, and he did commentary in WWE a few times too.
Yes, and he became like the color commentator for a lot of indie promotions in that time frame.
Oh, nice!
Because he's so good at it. He's so good at telling the stories of the wrestlers, so good at putting them over. He would be like, so that match where he put Roddy and Joe over, he told their stories, why they're dangerous, why they're significant, why Roddy can win, why you can never count him out. And he's very, very good at commentary.
Yeah, and I was actually telling Brad last night that I had never because I didn't have access to ROH then. I haven't seen any of the Samoa Joe CM Punk matches. I've always just heard about them, and I was like, but now that I have Honor Club, I should watch them. And Brad told me they actually just added under the collection section. So if you have Honor Club under the collection section, they have all 3 of their matches. They have their whole trilogy there. So I was like, I've got to go check that out because
they're masterpieces.
I want to see. Do I watch those before I watch this one? Or should I watch this one first so I don't have the expectations of the Ring of Honor stuff? Would you say?
That's a good question, because don't expect those matches.
Yeah, of course, because it's been 18 years. Punk's coming off of injuries, and they're older. And Samoa Joe's he was injured last year too. So yeah, I definitely don't expect that. But I'm like,
I think from like whenever you watch them, it's going to be fascinating to see now how they change their storytelling because they're more limited physically now.
Sure.
And usually they're much better workers now than they were then, which is saying something because they were awesome then. but they're not as physically athletic anymore because they're older. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it with having seen all those matches and remembering them crystal clear in my head. Like the finish to the first one, I won't spoil it on you. The finish to the first one is phenomenal. And it has to remember too, this is in the middle of Samoa Joe's legendary Ring of Honor world title reign, where like when people talk about the Ring of Honor world title, what they're talking about is Joe. Like he had a nearly 2-year reign with that title, and yeah, it's a spectacular thing to watch. I would actually, you know what? I would say probably go watch the old ones.
That's what I was just thinking because it's like, and also commentary may spoil it as far as because they know people haven't seen it, or people, there might be newer fans who haven't seen it. So they might be like, okay, well, in their first meetup, this is what happened. Or, they're going to tell the story of them. Or I'm sure if they do, because they did I really like the package that they did for Roddy and Samoa Joe, and they kept airing it. They aired it during Dynamite and Rampage and Collision. Like they made it a big deal, which I really liked that they did that for the tournament. So I'm sure
you'll have the backstory that way,
right? So maybe I should watch them first.
I caught up with New Japan right before Kenny and Okada were gonna have their no time limit, no DQ. So I watched 1, 2, and 3 one day. I not in one day, actually. After the first couple, I was like, okay, I'm doing.
You need a break.
Now.
Yeah, definitely.
But I caught up with it just in time to get, and I'm really glad that I had. Now that I'm thinking, I'm listening to you guys talk about it, is that I'm glad I had the backstory when I got to that coup de grace match that they had that last time.
Maybe I'll try tonight. Maybe I'll start
because you're not expecting them to be like they were then.
You said, Josiah, the first one's an hour.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I will watch the first one depending on how Nikki is feeling because I know she's going to want to watch it too. We'll try to watch it tonight.
They're long. They're all 3 are long.
Okay, that's good to know. Then maybe I will spread them out and watch one tonight, and then depending on how Nikki's feeling, we'll do one. Maybe we'll do one Monday and do one on Tuesday.
I think that's the way to do it.
And then that way we'll be prepared for Saturday.
That was the feud that put Ring of Honor on the map.
I remember hearing. Yeah,
that their the first real big money feud they had was Raven and CM Punk. No title involved.
Which I've never seen that either, but I have heard.
You'll have to go back and watch them once they're up on Honor Club because they're really good. But it's very much so. It's so funny watching the story play out. You have Raven and Tommy Dreamer in ECW, and then in Ring of Honor you have Raven and CM Punk, and the roles are reversed. Punk is Raven and Raven is Dreamer. And in some ways, the way they told the story.
Well, and then that's kind of what they did. Isn't that what they kind of did with MJF and Punk too? Was the roles
100%. And then it was passed down later to MJF,
which is why I keep saying, which is why I've said this whole time with whatever happens, hoping that if they did have Punk come back, that they have to go back to the MJF stuff, because I don't think that story's that's not finished. And then I was like, and then I was like, MJF is going to use so much of what happened with CM Punk. He can use that for promos. He can use that to reignite that feud. And I was like, that's a people, and I understand that's a yeah, right. And
isn't that what they were doing last night? I mean, they were basically like on Collision. They were kind of
hinting at least.
Well, yeah, because CM Punk has said, because CM Punk has said, like, you could be like MJF and you can go buy a replica belt on shopaew.com.
On Rampage, not Collision.
They did that last night on Rampage in the backstage segment. CM Punk said you can go you can do like MJF and you can go buy a replica, because Jay asked him what Jay was like. I assume that he said something about, he made a reference to what was in the bag, and he was like, and he said, no, this is my belt. If you want one, you can go do like MJF and go to. So they're definitely planting the seeds for that at some point.
Maybe they real world champion.
Yeah. So maybe that's their all-in story, or maybe they do it. I would save it for All Out, because of that's where it all.
Well, they have to.
But I think they're planting the seeds for it now. MJF's distracted by the tag stuff with his new bestie Adam Cole.
So they got a lot of like really great stories percolating there. And this is one of the things I hoped for with Punk coming back, was that he, like, the drama of all the stuff aside, this guy is going to get you emotionally invested in the stories he's telling. And this match with Joe coming up, they're going to do so many callbacks to those
Another
matches.
reason I need to watch those three first, so I get it, so I can see what they're doing and get. So I wonder, does Punk come out to his ROH music on Saturday?
I certainly hope so.
Or did they stay? We'll ask Paul Fontaine if you recognize Or maybe if they do a rematch, then maybe. So I was like, did they do it Saturday, or they save it in case? I don't know if they'll do a rematch. I mean, I personally would just have saved it for Death Before Dishonor, because that would have been perfect to have him come out to that song then. For that,
in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I would have, maybe there's scheduling conflicts or something, and that's why they didn't do it while they're holding off. But
Sam, I have Paul's like Twitter right here, and it was everything I could do to not just flash it up there.
Oh, poor Paul.
We got a couple of comments from Brad. I do want to go back to his first one. Because we got off track. So Brad said he thought the first match between Omega Ospreay was better, based mainly on the New Japan production, which I saw a lot of people say that the New Japan production, they preferred that, or it had and lack of Callus stuff. But I rewatched the show yesterday, and it's so much closer than I originally thought, which is part of the reason I want to go back and watch them close together, so that I can see that. Because I've already had, like, anytime somebody's like match of the year, I'm like, oh, it was their match at Wrestle Kingdom. And so then I was like, now am I just thinking that's what I want to go back and watch them together to see if my opinion changes. Then Brad said MJF beating Punk at All Out in Chicago to become the real champion would be a great cap to their story. And I think that's what's happening.
Well, it makes it a better draw, because you got 2 pay-per-views in a week. Yes. So you really need something huge on that Chicago show.
That match has the main event All Out.
And that's a giant. I mean, everybody I know wants to see that match.
Yeah.
So many people in our freaking Discord just want that match so bad.
Yeah.
That's where I would do it. I would do it at All Out. I would
give the people what they want.
I would gladly pay to watch that match again.
Finish the story.
I'm like over it. I think that like Mike and JD said, they're not talking about ratings anymore.
Well, and that's why I told Mel.
I think that I'm with them. I think that, like, I'm over all of the drama, and I'm just.
Well, that's what I told Mel.
All I care about is the wrestling. I just care about
like
the wrestling, watching the wrestling, fantasy booking the wrestling, watching I just want to watch the G1 and enjoy it. I want to watch.
Well, and that's what I told Mel, like, before it was I was like, I know she's trying to get ready for Forbidden Door, but I was seeing so much crap about there's still drama backstage when you have wrestlers saying, no, there's no drama. And I was like, it's not news, it's gossip. And I'm tired of it. It's all over my timeline. part of it is because of the stupid For You section. So it shows me people I don't follow, and it shows me shit I don't care about. And so I was like, I told Mel, I was like, unless it's actually newsworthy and not what the IWC says is newsworthy, I don't want to cover it, because I was like, it's gossip. It's not news, and I'm tired of it.
I know the people that are going to tell me at this point what's going on that I need to care about. Like, I just do. I know either personally, or I know from like having read a source for so long that I trust it. Like, I'm done. I am enjoying the rest of, like, this is where I get away from all the dumb bull crap. This is how I like manage this stuff helps me manage my disability. It helps me manage my day-to-day life.
Sure.
It gives me something to like have as like, it builds a routine, something to build a routine around. And but it also brings me great joy. Like that Kenny Omega, this is what I'll say is like, and that's probably why it will end up I mean, it'll be the greatest match I've ever seen. And if I see a better match, I'm the luckiest person in the freaking world. Like, it brought me so much joy to be so engrossed, and so like, I'm just so happy. I still haven't like come down from, I think I've like wanted to journal about it, but I haven't been ready or able, because I'm just like, I saw that. Like, I really, and I mean, and I was in the building the first time too. And I mean, they topped themselves in the best ways, but it was like, it's just from learning. They like evolved. It was the next level of like, next year is going to be better in that way too, and whatever. And oh my gosh, but wow. Like, that's why that's why I'm a wrestling fan, not
not the backstage crap.
I care about backstage stories if they affect what happens on screen, and that's it. Because the whole thing with CM Punk and the brawl and all that just made me sad.
Yeah.
Because I was like, CM Punk in this company is the right fit. He's because AEW is the spiritual successor to Ring of Honor in many ways, and even though they own Ring of Honor, it's still a thing. But like him being in AEW from the very beginning, I thought that's a perfect fit for him.
I did too.
And him working with Omega and the Young Bucks, these guys had the same drive to make wrestling better, and it's like, I wish they could find a way that they can get along. But if they can't get along, at least they could find a way to be in the same company. Wrestling is better for all these guys in AEW. And
WWE has had to get better because AEW exists, and I'll die on that hill. I've said it the whole time, because they've had to examine I mean, they still do what they do, and I'm not interested. It's not for me, but they still they've improved because they've had to. It's the rising tide raises all ships thing. Like, we have to it's awesome.
Well, competition is good for everybody.
Exactly.
That's just it.
And the wrestlers are getting paid better than they're really able to be like competitive in their payment. And they deserve it because they.
And that's even like we talked about. Like, I mean, I wanted MLW to do well, because there's only so many spots on TV for wrestlers, and so like I wanted MLW to succeed. I want Impact to succeed. Because there's only while there's so much wrestling out there, and there's streaming, and which is phenomenal, and we're very lucky to have that. There's so many spots available on TV, and so I want these companies to be successful and to be able to be on TV, because I want to see a person like Mance Warner be on TV. And that's where we got to see and we've got to see Alex Hammerstone, and there's Alex Kane, and like all these people that I've heard of and haven't gone out of my and then they're right there on TV, and like I want them to get that exposure, and I want ROH to. Excuse me. I was like, and I hate that. On the one hand, I do hate that ROH is not on TV. On the one hand, I've gotten to like it more because I can see that Tony has more free reign, on Honor Club. He can do a little bit more, but on the other hand, people are not getting to see what Athena is doing there, because they don't, and they're missing out. To me, they are missing out on the best women's champion in all of the United States from some people. I don't watch Japanese wrestling, so I don't want to say the world, but I have had people who are Japanese wrestling fans tell me that the story wise, it is the best story that's being told in women's wrestling across the world right now. And a lot of people aren't seeing that because they don't have access to Honor Club, or they don't have the time, or they don't have the funds, or for whatever reason. And so on that aspect, it sucks that they're not on TV. But then on the other hand, there are a lot of pros to it, and part of it is because it's not on TV, and so he can give Athena these things. He can give her 15-minute matches. He can give her main events and things like that he may not be able to do on TV. But then on the other hand, you've got Claudio and Samoa Joe, who are ROH, they're ROH champions, and they get to be on Collision, and Athena is not. Other than her being in the tournament. So there are pros and cons to both sides of it. But I mean, but my original point was that competition is good for everybody. And like you said, it does force them to have to up their game to be able to. And it's the same thing that happened when WWE and WCW were in their ratings war, because it pushed them to, well, it should have. It did for a while. And then when the ratings kind of went away, then the storytelling got kind of crappy on WCW. Not kind of, a lot crappy. But
dream the ever seen with Vince Russo booking.
Yeah. Brad says, I love the Discord and everyone there, and talking with other fans. Everyone critiques so much of the product and every aspect of it, which has been probably my biggest hesitancy on joining Discord, is because I already see enough of it on Twitter, and I try to protect, I try not to engage with a lot of stuff. Just because I try to protect basically my time and energy and what I'm going to give effort to. And so that's part of the reason, because that's why I wasn't very active in the Facebook group, because there was a lot of that going on, and that is not for me. And so that's been my biggest reason I haven't joined Discord, other than it being another app. But the way things are going over on Twitter, I probably will just end up in Discord anyway, because Twitter is probably going to not exist.
I find the daily DDT Slack is a good place for those kinds of discussions, because we do critique, but it's not nitpicky.
No, not at all. And I really enjoy talking to, and so that's where Josiah and I are. We're in another Slack together as well, but we talk about 9 million other things over there. Daily DDT is a lot of the wrestling, and it is, and that's where we all kind of go to. And it's interesting because since I don't watch WWE anymore, I like seeing some of the stuff that they're talking about, like in NXT, or how women's wrestling is doing this. Like, I didn't watch the pay-per-view yesterday, but I heard, because I was following along in the Slack, I heard that the women had an incredible Money in the Bank match yesterday, and so that was really cool to get there. So I like getting their feedback too, just to see, because I'm not watching the company, but I have an idea of what's happening over there.
When you mentioned when you mentioned Athena's run in Ring of Honor, I would liken it to Asuka's run in NXT.
Yes,
not a lot of people saw it, but it was awesome.
Yes, and we do have a conversation about Athena, but Mel, if you want to add what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, I find that the chats in the individual channel, and this is because, that's going to happen no matter what.
Oh, of course.
I know you know that, so.
Yeah.
But I think I find is the discourse in the individual channels for the individual shows is a little less like that, because the hosts are almost kind of the hosts that do participate in there are kind of the calming factor that they are in there. For as many things as as many promos as JD or Mike are gonna cut, they're also really calming factors, calming voices and reasonable people that can be hey, it's whatever. And of course Garrett, who the big boss man, he patience of a saint, honestly. Sometimes he allows way further than I like to take a lesson from people like that. And so it's I agree with what Brad's saying, and that's why I think it's more fun a little bit. I go in those, I pop in and out of those because sometimes I can find a good conversation, but I tend to keep I like talking in some of the more individual channels, whether it's a show channel or we have our fun conspiracy corner channel where we just have enjoyable and then do little silly stuff. So
yeah,
it's all again, with what's going on with Twitter, and the only reason we're continuing to talk about this is like we have to kind of care about it because we have to care about people paying attention to what we're doing here and what content we're all creating, and that we like care about what we're doing, and we care about that group. So
like when we were talking to Garrett the other day about it, and I was like, but Twitter's where that's where all my work is promoted. Like that's where.
He's not wrong. He said it. I think he said, it's still the place with the best reach, and he's not wrong right now. But we'll see what happens with a 600 post a day visual or whatever limit.
I am not paying for Twitter.
No, I will absolutely not pay. There's no way I'm paying for that.
No. You're collecting
I will not.
Data and selling it to advertisers. You don't need to have me pay for it.
No.
You just jumped into that hole in Oak Island, the one that no one can get to the bottom of. Elon Musk was like, here you go, Twitter.
But Brad made some comments and I saw it and I agree. It's because he screwed up on his end and is blaming it, and then he's making it everybody else's problem. But that's a man baby. But whatever. But so we'll circle back to Athena because that was one of the topics.
Wait, I have a picture of her and Billy from. Oh, I just fixed. Hang on, let me put it back in.
Yay!
There we go. I got it.
Actually, it's a good thing you brought this match up
picture. I saved this. I even found this because I knew that this would help us segue into what we want to talk about here.
Perfect. I'm glad we got that picture. So I wanted to bring up Athena because there is now they have finally. So we had the question before is like, why is Athena in the Owen while she has this winning streak? She at the time before her match with Billy, she was 27-0 in her ROH streak, and then so she technically, because she won at Forbidden Door, she became 28-0, and then we were like, well, that's kind of weird. So then I was like, okay, well then she's gonna win the tournament because she'll win 29-30 in the tournament. And then I was like, well, that'll be kind of cool because she can go into Death Before Dishonor as ROH champion, have a 30-0 streak, and she has the Owen now. So like she's going into the pay-per-view with all of these things. And like, so I was like, that's really cool. And I was like, I kind of surprised that they would have her win over Willow. And, because Willow's really over right now. Willow's probably getting ready to not have her belt much longer, and we'll get to why in a few minutes. And so that had been what I thought. And then I saw, Thursday, she had a 2-minute match with an independent wrestler named Casey Spinelli, and she won. So she was technically 29-0. And so then later I saw a tweet from ROH and they said she was 28-0 in ROH sanctioned matches. So that is their loophole. That is how they're getting around the streak. So Billy, her win against Billy did not count towards her streak. So instead of being 29-0, she's actually 28-0 in ROH. And so I assume that is because they're going to have Willow beat her, and it will not mess up her streak because it is that match will not be ROH sanctioned. That's an AEW match.
It'll be an AEW sanctioned, yeah.
Right. And so that's how. So and then I guess what they'll do is she'll lose to. I assume she'll lose to Willow on, because I believe their match is Saturday. I believe that's on Collision, or maybe it's on Rampage. I can't remember which night they're doing that match now. But when that happens, then I think Willow is going to beat her for that. And so it's interesting because Death Before Dishonor is the 21st. And so I can't tell if they're going to have her get to 30 if Death Before Dishonor will be the win number 30, or if they have her get win number 30 before that, and then she drops the title at Death Before Dishonor. And I kind of am wondering, and I think I mentioned it last week, I have a feeling who might beat her, because Ian made the comment that he thinks that nobody in AEW or in Ring of Honor currently can beat her. And so I think they're going to bring in Jordynne Grace, and I think Jordynne Grace is going to beat her.
Yeah.
That's my thought. And I like, on the one hand, people are going to be like, oh, Jordynne Grace is on ROH and she's going to be streaming and you can't see her. But if they are going to have her, they could have her go on to Collision if that's what they're going to do. But ROH's women's division is better than the AEW women's division as far as how they handle their champions, how much they promote her, because she is the star of ROH. Claudio is hardly ever there. Joe doesn't wrestle very often. He hasn't in the last few weeks. She's the consistent champion. She is like Orange Cassidy is constantly defending his belt. Athena's doing that in Ring of Honor. She is the star of that show, and they can make Jordan the star of that show. Jordan is a star. Jordan is phenomenal. She is one of the best women's wrestlers.
Maybe it's better that it's like that.
So
maybe they're de facto, like they didn't get their show, so maybe they're de facto just taking over ROH.
Maybe so.
You know what? Who cares though? Like if it gets over, no one's gonna say no.
Like as long as it's good, who cares? Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like,
yeah.
And
so that's, I mean, that to me sounds awesome. And that to me, it's like, oh, well, okay, well then go pay for it. I mean, yeah, she is going to be behind the paywall. So go pay for her and go give these women some money. If you want to like really, if you want it that badly, like,
well, it's kind of like,
what do they have now? They have 2, 4, 5 hours of AEW live television now. So maybe you should have to go buy it.
Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit of Trinity and Impact, where you don't, obviously people get hurt if you have access to access, then you can, or if I think there's a few other ways to watch Impact, then you can see Trinity, but Trinity is selling pay-per-views for them. Trinity has a huge following, and so she is selling pay-per-views, and so that's kind of what Athena is doing. She is selling Honor Club because it's word starting, because me and Brad and Nikki and Lyric have been banging the drum about Athena for weeks now, and now people are starting to pick up. They're seeing this conversation that Athena is doing something special. So for the people who first can afford obviously there's so much streaming out there. So if they can afford the $9.99 a month, and if they have the time, because that's another thing, is having the time to watch all of this wrestling. But I think if they want to see Athena and what she's doing, then some people will pay the $9.99. And then if you have Jordan Grace in there, then there are people who will pay the $9.99 to watch.
Why not build the draw? You're building the draw.
There will be some people who watched Impact, who are fans of Impact. I'm not going to say Impact fans, because Impact fans are incredibly loyal to only Impact, right. Which is fine. Right. But they've been watching since like 2002, and have been there through the good and the bad, and the very bad, and the worse.
Yeah,
and
there's some really bad stuff.
And then
But there are people who watch Impact like me, who like more types of wrestling, but knowing that, say, Jordan Grace jumping from there to Ring of Honor, if I didn't already have access to Honor Club, I have access to Honor Club. If I didn't, I would consider picking it up, because Jordan Grace was so great in Impact, and there are going to be other people like me in that way.
I agree with that.
And having her feud with Athena will be fantastic. They are going to hit each other very hard.
Yes.
Two very small.
Perfect for what Athena's doing right now.
Two very small women hitting each other hard.
It's fun.
Yes, it
awesome. Sounds great. Strong style.
Yeah. It's just as fun as Tomohiro Ishii, who's like 5'5", hitting people hard.
Right. Seriously, that guy. I always forget. I've seen him now. But I forget. He's not that big. He looks enormous, but when he's really not that big.
It's so funny too, because I've always stuck with me for when JR used to do Access. He's compared him to a Frigidaire, and so that's like what I always like. He's built like a Frigidaire, and so that's like what I think. And I was telling a friend of mine who's not super familiar with New Japan. He saw Ishii, and I think his wife said that he referred to him as a bowling ball or something. I can't remember the exact thing. I was like, JR once referred to him as a Frigidaire, and he thought that was really funny. And I was like, that's something that always
a mini tank.
Yeah, he is. I mean, like the Pitbull moniker is it fits him because pit bulls are so stout and
it's stone
powerful.
pit bull. We have a whole
Yes, he is a
theory
stone
that
pit bull.
he actually goes back to the dojo at night and he's like a golem or a gargoyle and he actually turns to stone at night in the
perfect.
like so, and that's been going on for a long time. So that is like our picture of Ishii is like, oh, he's got to go back to the dojo now, and he turns into
That's
like.
great.
I love that it's stone pitbull because I'm like, that's why they put the stone part in there. I was like, it's gotta be
makes sense to me.
I mean, now we have our own fantasy world of like me and a few of my friends.
Sure.
We have like our fantasy world of what like the dojo's like, kind of this like blown up and based on like but he definitely like he's got a corner where it's like you don't mess with him, and that's where he's turned to stone. And they're waiting till the sun touches him.
Disney gargoyles, except he wakes up angry and just punches people.
Punches people out. He just beats
Sam's on brand.
It was like perfect. Even that Moxley match, it's like I don't know why I love watching these two beat the crap out of each other every single time, but it never gets old.
Never gets old.
Never
ever gets old.
I know exactly what I'm getting, and I'm hyped for it every time.
And I'm good.
Yep. I'm like, I know what I'm getting, and I'm ready for it.
Speaking of strong style.
So Brad said if I had to guess, Willow is winning the Owen. Yes, that was my guess too. Originally, and then I started thinking of the Athena stuff. And that will allow Tony to feel like he's given her something without giving her a main title. Yep. And then what happened with the Owen last year, Brad? Nothing.
I got my picture. This was our good picture, Willow from.
Love her. She's
got to see her 2 nights in a row. She hypes up the crowd every time she comes, and she is like, she is effervescent. I use that word. That's
a good word. That's a good word.
That is a really good word.
I mean, it's the right word for her. She is something else. Like, it's amazing to be.
Speaking of like Willow, and even like going back to Ishii, it makes me so glad places like AEW exist that let these stars who would not like WWE would never use these guys. Vince would look at Ishii and go, "He's so small, ow!" and he can't speak English, pal. And he would not. He wouldn't understand Ishii at all. But Tony Khan looks at Ishii and he sees what makes Ishii work, which is go out there, hit people hard, hit a brainbuster, go home. Yep. And it works every time. Yes. Like, it doesn't matter that he doesn't speak. He doesn't speak in New Japan.
He doesn't have to.
I mean, what is it? Yeah, it's so silly.
There was one match he lost in New Japan, and he did the post press conference, and he goes, "I am a sad man. Write whatever you want."
Yes. I love that meme. I see it all the time. It's perfect, and he doesn't need to do anything else. It works for him. So Larry says the fact that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say for his there was a promo. It was in the TV title tournament. It was Ren Narita challenging him, I think, and his response was, and then he just walked out like a click of disdain with his tongue, and he just left. That was his promo, and I was like, perfect.
That's all you need from Ishii. Like, that's all I want. I don't want to hear him. I don't want to hear him out here monologuing.
There's plenty of other people that do that. Like, there's like, it's I love the diversity of talent and the fact that you can like, and I'm right there with Josiah about like the fact that AEW brought this out and it's making people go watch New Japan, and it's making them. I think the best revelation that I was given by a friend when I really became a nerd about this stuff was there's more wrestling than WWE. And I think that sometimes someone has to tell you that and make you realize, like, for me, it was that someone had to be like, you do like it. You just need to look at some other kinds of it. And it was like, you're absolutely, I mean, and I've been like all my major shows I've gone to, everything I've gone to has been AEW or with New Japan on the label. Like, it's just, I mean, and I love it. It's great.
Growing up with WCW, like I did, made me very aware of other products. because they would be plugging AAA, CMLL. Because they would
Liger wrestled on there, like
in New Japan, right? My first exposure to New Japan was WCW.
Yeah.
And they brought in the Great Muna, Masahiro Chono, Tenzan, Eugene Nagata. These guys were all in WCW at some point or another, and they wouldn't be main event guys or anything like that. But what I loved about it is when they had NWO Japan, for example, as Great Muta, leader of the NWO Japan, it was like, oh my gosh, the NWOs, these guys came to WCW, got brought into the NWO, and now they're taking it back to New Japan, and New Japan would book stories around that, and it's like, oh my gosh, this WCW feels like a global promotion where there's just things that are happening everywhere around the world that affect what's happening in WCW.
Yeah.
And the WWF felt very isolated. And that's by design. Vince wants you to think that there's only
that's 100%.
And whereas around the world, everyone else is much more open to saying, like, this stuff actually happens and matters.
Right.
So when you are watching AEW and you get these guys main event at the Tokyo Dome, like Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega main eventing the Tokyo Dome for New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's actually part of the reason why AEW exists, is that match.
That's true.
But they acknowledge actual wrestling history, and it was a line. It was a throwaway line that JR had on Rampage like a month or two ago, and I really appreciated what he actually said, because he's hit or miss on commentary, but every now and then it's just like, yep, that's the old JR.
Yep.
And he was there, and he's like, I really like working for a company that lets you acknowledge history. That's what he just said randomly. He was talking about something in Mid-South, and that was like 100% the real Jim Ross coming through.
Yep.
Because you know how many times Vince would scream at him for that.
Oh man! Yep. Oh god!
And meanwhile, Tony Khan's like, "Great, keep it up."
Yeah, tell people about
all about this.
And because it also connects the story, right?
Right.
And that's why also when we get matches like Omega and Ospreay, like we did at Forbidden Door, you have the announcers telling the story of their careers,
right?
Like why it's relevant, why the New Japan stories are relevant for what's happening in AEW and things like that. And it's a much more enjoyable experience as a fan, because it's very jarring to go to WWE and then everything someone did doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And Brad made a perfect point. It's called WWE Universe for a reason. I can't I can't sum it up better than that. It's the truth. I do want to hit on this real quick. So Larry said, going back to what we were talking about with Ring of Honor, the fact that Tony Khan doesn't have a streaming partner is really going to hurt them in the long run. ROH having their own streaming service is going to grow them. I think you're right, Larry, especially on the latter part. I think having the Honor Club and then because they have this, now the library is there on top of the new content that comes out every single week, then there is content that, there's the content. Now I can go back and see things that I missed that I didn't have access to. So now I can go back and watch CM Punk versus Samoa Joe ahead of this match. Like I can pay and I can get, I can get all of these things, or I can go back and watch CM Punk versus Raven, or I can go back and watch even stuff that I liked and stuff that I did see. So and I think that I do think it's going to help them, grow them in the long run. I think that's very accurate. I hope that AEW gets some sort of a streaming partner for their stuff, because they need some. They're going into, it's All In it will be 5 years ago this year. They're in year 4. They've got to start putting that content. It's got to start going somewhere, especially because people are getting into people who are finally given AEW a chance. They are going to want to go back and see all of that stuff. Or now you have and also you have the conversation of, okay, people say Omega Ospreay 2 is the best match in AEW history. And so then you're going to be like, okay, well, what else has happened in AEW? Because then there's Cody and Dustin. There's Cody Dustin from the first time. Then there's like that for me is still that might still be the best match in AEW history for me. There's been so many good things, and then there's Cody versus Brody's the dog collar match. Nikki and I talk about that all the time. There's the parking lot brawl between Proud and Powerful and Best Friends. That's one of my favorite matches ever. that's there. So like he needs somewhere to put this content so that people can go find it.
The first ever, God, why am I blanking on it? Not the Anarchy in the Arena, the other
Stadium
one.
Stampede.
Yeah, the
Stadium
first
Stampede.
Stadium Stampede needs to be accessible to people. It was
Yes.
so freaking good. They did such brilliant work with the like being in a pandemic and having this situation go on.
Absolutely.
Like that is one of
so
my
much fun. Like I loved that. Yeah.
and then like of course like one of my favorite matches, which is like Moxley and MJF back when they were on the one pay-per-view, because we were just talking about it today, because I was like, it's the one that MJF's like, sorry folks, you're getting wrestling tonight. This is one of my favorite things.
Right. And Brad says, just a heads up, if you have Honor Club, the original All In is still on there.
That's cool.
I need to go back and watch it. I haven't. I don't think I've watched it. I've watched certain things. Did we may have watched the entire show back.
It'll be nice. It'll be nice.
Very long time. I mean, there are some. Just to warn you, if you do go watch it, there are some questionable people on there who, at the time, was speaking out, and so there are some unfortunate people involved on that show. So I do want to give you that little disclaimer. But otherwise, if you have not seen All In, like I would highly recommend it. And I guess I am probably impartial because I did get to go to that, and that definitely set off something in me that I realized like this could be a really cool thing. This could be a really big deal. And I do think about it sometimes. It is a little frustrating because AEW has kind of veered off course of what All In was and what the spirit of that was. Because again, and that happens. You're gonna have, because there's TV and you've got to cater to things, and then you're not gonna say no to Bryan Danielson being available. You're not gonna say no to Adam Cole, and you're not gonna say no to CM Punk, and you're not gonna say no to Ruby Soho and things like that. So it does kind of, but things are going to grow and evolve, and maybe we'll get back to some of the original spirit of it. But it definitely, that show gave me like the realization that like something special is happening and something is coming. And then it did, and then it turned into AEW. And so I would recommend, especially if you're an AEW fan, that event is the thing that changed the wrestling industry. And that's not hyperbole. Like it literally changed the wrestling industry because it gave birth to what we are now talking about. And that's a huge thing.
And the funny thing is that the company that produced the show often doesn't get credit for it. It was Ring of Honor.
Yes, it was.
They produced the show.
They sure did.
And good for them.
It was their ring too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. But they did have a specific mat for it. But I mean, the whole production was Ring of Honor.
I kind of like that. I like that. I think 2023 and a half ROH should be a different ROH than 2011 ROH or whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I think it should. I like that. Like you guys are telling me that it's like building its own thing. It's like its new evolution of it. I like that. I like that. It should be its own.
Mm-hmm.
It was always its own. I mean, it was always its own thing anyway. So this is its new version. It's
definitely
of its
the
own
spirit.
thing.
The spirit of it is still there. That it's still doing its own thing. And there's like, I see now that I also see like there's a lot of like. There's a lot more focus on like Lucha Libre, which I love. Which that I got my first introduction to cruiserweights was WCW, and that's probably my favorite thing. That besides like NWO stuff, that's probably the best thing that WCW gave me was introducing me to cruiserweights. And then I heard Tony on the conference on the media scrum, and he was talking. I mean, on the media call, and he was talking about how much he loves Lucha Libre, and I was like, oh, it makes perfect sense because there's a ton of Lucha Libre stuff on, and I'm glad because that's like now people who don't watch GCW or keep up with a lot of indie wrestling, like they're getting exposure to people like Gringo Loco, who I think is phenomenal, and I've watched him the last few years, and he's coming in and he kills it every single, like he makes the most of every opportunity he gets in ROH. And like last week, my favorite match was the Lucha Brothers, Vikingo and Commander versus the Workhorsemen, Shane Taylor and Gringo Loco. Like I'm not going to get like
what a mix of styles. That's so great.
When I saw that match was filmed, I was like, I can't wait. Like I literally don't care.
That's a Nitro match.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I was
it's like this. Like that would be like the Steiner brothers versus Psychosis and La Parca or something like that.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
was incredible.
That's a lot.
No, I appreciate Honor Club giving me things like that, and and of course, I'm biased. I do love Workhorsemen. Those are my guys. I've watched them locally for years, and so they get a they get a spot down there, and they're on there pretty often, and then that worked into Anthony Henry facing Miro last night. Like, right. I was so excited. Like, I knew what was going to happen, and I still was so excited that Anthony got that 2 minutes of Miro murdering. But they did let Anthony get in a few kicks and show a little bit of what he can do. And then, like, it was great because Nigel is familiar with him now because of calling our Ring of Honor, and he was like, "Oh, Anthony Henry," and he like said these things, and I was like, Nigel McGuinness is talking about Anthony Henry. Like, this is that's just such a crazy thing. Yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, exactly. Is this real life?
One of the things I'll say with Ring of Honor being owned by Tony Khan is a relief for me, because I knew they were going towards being sold. Like once they shut down and released everyone.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, maybe they can reboot as like a super indie, they'll be fine, but it won't be the same. And right. Tony Khan bought it, and the show is 100% Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. It's Ring of Honor. It is very much so Ring of Honor. And including bringing in old guys back, like having Joe be the TV champion and all that. So it's honoring honoring, no pun intended. Ring of Honor's history. For me, who's been a fan since the early 2000s.
Right.
To also being modern. You got Vincent and there doing his stuff. You got all these other modern acts that are part of it. The Kingdom is returned.
And you've even got it in the board of directors. You have Jerry Lynn, who is ROH, who is beloved by everyone in ROH, and then you have Stokely Hathaway, who is the modern. He brings into the modern fan base, which I love that dichotomy of the two of them. And, so that also plays into the being glad that Tony purchased them.
And Tony loves his history when it comes to wrestling. Mm-hmm. So there's one thing we can say about Tony Khan is that man loves wrestling. Probably more than anything else he does. He... actually Brad had made
that was going to be my next. I was going to say that as well. So for the people who are listening on audio, Brad said one thing Punk said way back when he first came back was that he was happy with ROH being in the hands of someone who cares, and that couldn't be more true with Tony Khan. And he was saying that he knew that it was the catalog was going to be put somewhere. It wasn't going to be like inaccessible. Like if WWE had bought it, it would have just wound up on Peacock, if that. And then it would have
made me so sad.
And it's badly organized. I mean, I've gone in there to watch some of the matches, and you really have to like scroll through. They don't care. It sucks. That's too bad.
And that's one of the things that I'm so glad that Tony Khan ended up being the one to buy it, because you get like that was the baby of Punk and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson. This was their baby. That was their promotion. Yep. Yes, it was Gabe Sapolsky that booked it. It was Kerry Silkin who owned it after 2004.
Yeah.
And all that. But these guys had real ownership of the product. And that continued for years. I mean, you look up 2015 to like 2018 Ring of Honor, it's Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks.
Yep.
Like this was their company.
Yep. It was.
And it was great. It was great.
I love
and Cody Rhodes is the top heel joining Bullet Club. The Young Bucks is heels, but they were really cheered, and then they weaved in the feud with Kenny Omega, but who led Bullet Club between New Japan and Ring of Honor. It's just great stuff.
And that's where they pulled in Hangman too. Yes. I mean, which is crazy. And, I still remember, because I was, of course, for most of you know that that he was in my local promotion forever, and so then he goes to ROH, and then I see, and it was like Adam Page joined the Bullet Club, and I was like, that Adam Page? That's the same one. The Bullet Club, the biggest faction in the world. like, no, literally, that's what I said was that Adam Page, because I just couldn't believe like that that's who it was.
And that wasn't a Ring of Honor idea. Ghetto specifically requested Adam Page to be a part of Bullet Club.
Thank goodness he did, but he saw what he saw.
He saw something in him. And Tanahashi at that time was like, I wish I could get him away from Bullet Club into a tag. So Tanahashi was looking at Adam Page and because he saw future world champion.
Incredible. Yeah, and so and again, if Cody had not left when he did and joined, and they the things that lined up when it did, then like, and I, there is the argument, and I that ROH, when they left, ROH fell apart, but that's not the Bullet Club's fault. Like, they put all their eggs in the Bullet Club basket, which I get, because that was bringing in all the fans, that's bringing in the money. Like, I went to some of those shows, and their lines were the meet and greet lines for them were ridiculous, and to the point that they would have to stop it and be like, okay, we're done with intermission, show's gonna start, you can come back afterwards and we'll finish. Yep. Like, it was like that. It was insane.
They were building the foundations for AEW throughout that, because that they laid the groundwork on the ground by doing those meet and greets with fans. If someone couldn't get in and they tweeted at them, they would get them into the show. Like, all these different things they would do for people. Right. And truly good to the fans, truly fan.
Yeah, they really were. Like, and even because prior to seeing Cody at my local promotion, I think it was before that, or maybe it was after, I can't remember, but Cody, like, after the show, Cody literally went and met with every single person who wanted to meet him. We just stood at the barricade, and he went from person to person. He stopped, he talked to them, he took pictures with them, and he is definitely, that's one of the things that has stuck. Because somebody made the point yesterday about how he, regardless of where he is, he's a company guy. And I think that's true, because in ROH, he was the company guy. Like, he did but I think part of it is just his nature. I know his dad probably instilled a lot of that into him. But he's so good with fans. He's been, and I've met him a couple of times, and he's been incredible to me every time I've met him.
He's just a nice guy. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Like, a lot of people make fun of him for some of the promos he did AEW and all that, but like, he's a really good guy, and that's why he's a great promo. He's very, very personable.
And if he still wants to be a politician, he can easily slide into it, because he is very good. He's very good with people. He's good to talking with people. He's good at commanding a room. I was like, when he said he was, wanting to run for politics in Georgia, I was like, oh, I can 100% see it, because he is really good. And, and some people may see that as a fakeness or whatever. He says the pretty things, which, I guess you can argue that. But I mean, just in the couple times that I've had one-on-one, talking to him, he seems very personable. And it doesn't seem like it's an act. It seems like it's genuine, unless he's just that good at working and he's fooled me. But he comes across really genuine.
His dad is Dusty. But the thing is, like, Dustin and Cody both are like really well spoken of by their peers.
Yeah.
Like, everyone likes them. Yeah. So that to me is a pretty good indicator they're nice guys.
Yeah, definitely. Which is hard to come by in this business.
Howdy.
Yes. Oh, okay. So we spent way more, which I'm fine. I will talk about ROH anytime, but I guess we should get to, we did have one other topic, but I guess it's not like a super big topic. So we could just go into the New Japan stuff if you would like to.
All right. That's fine with me. We can save it for a different week.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the one person that's come back has not, that came back at the tapings has not appeared. I thought they were coming back from Collision, but they're actually coming back for ROH. So they will be, I assume, on next week's episode.
I think it's a thing that we can talk about anytime.
Yes,
for sure.
And we'll probably have more
in the interest of not like destroying
yes, we'll go. So we'll just stick. So we'll go right to the New Japan Forbidden Door. New Japan Independence Day cards that are coming up for us will be tomorrow and it's tomorrow and Tuesday, right? Or is it Tuesday and Wednesday? I think it's tomorrow.
What's today? Today is the 1st, Second, third is Tuesday and Wednesday.
It is Tuesdays, Wednesday, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, yes.
So do you want to know why Ghetto called the show Independence Day?
Yes, please.
I do.
The answer is because he likes the movie.
I knew that's what you were gonna say. I knew it.
That's
true. That's the true story.
So just so that you know, I named this. When I made these pictures for today, because I'm totally breaking kayfabe on this one, I called this the ID4.
No, it makes perfect sense.
So I didn't know that. So
I didn't either. I knew
that's hilarious.
To say the movie isn't it? Yep, that's
makes
perfect.
sense.
Yeah, he likes the movie, and then he's like, "I'm doing a show on Independence Day. We're calling it Independence Day."
I love it. So night one. So these are not going to be in any particular order.
I took them right off their website. So we're going to talk about them.
Whatever image pops up. That's what we're talking about. So night one. This is probably the big match of night one. So we're just going to go and talk about it. So it is Jun Kasai and El Desperado versus Jon Moxley and Homicide. So this match was made a couple of weeks ago because Despy was like, was having fun at GCW, wants to bleed some more. Who else is he gonna bleed with than Jon Moxley? Jon Moxley has a resident card. He can come bleed with him in Japan. And Mox immediately answers, I think the next day we had a response, and he was like, me and Homicide are coming, so find you a partner.
That's right. Yes.
I wanted that partner to be Yano because Jon Moxley fears Yano, and I wanted that. I was like, if Despy is smart, that's who he gets. But then Despy is smarter than me because he brought in the next. If you can't get Yano, then I guess the next best thing is Jun Kasai.
Go for the best deathmatch wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is probably pretty much a Jon Moxley dream match. And apparently, and from what Brad says, is also he said the tag match was made specifically for me, and I thank Ghetto for that. So thank you.
You know, he's a pleaser. He is a crowd pleaser,
unless it involves House of Torture.
Well,
and quite frankly, who better to have in a death match than Homicide?
Yeah. Right?
Perfect.
It's like it
and
writes
the New Japan Strong fans should be a little bit familiar with Homicide because Homicide was on a show recently. This match is going to be so much fun.
Speaking of Ring of Honor guys, Homicide, my goodness.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Definitely. And so the next match that Mel has popped up here is another tag match, probably a lot less bloody. Clark Connors and, now he's Drilla Maloney. It's Dan Maloney. Dan Maloney turned on TJP and Akira back at BOSJ, right? Is that where the turn happened?
Dominion.
No, Dominion. Yes, you're correct. Dominion. That's where this happened. So they've been waiting to get their revenge. So it's happening on Independence Day, night one. So Clark and Drilla versus Akira and TJP. And I believe it is it a title match?
Yes, for the junior titles.
For the junior tag team titles. And also Clark Connors and Maloney, they are members of the newest version of Bullet Club. They are part of the War Dogs. And so they are wreaking havoc. They are taking Bullet Club back to their original roots, which is just wreaking havoc.
Very violent, very heelish. Yeah.
Yeah. They're taking it from the very cool stuff that Bullet Club became when it was like Kenny Omega and Cody, like that type of stuff. They're like, nope, that's not us. We're going back to our roots. We're going back to
Prince Devitt.
There you go. Its inception. And so I definitely see a title change coming here. I definitely see War Dogs taking the title and making especially going into G1 with and David Finlay is in G1, and I definitely see that's where this match is going to go. This match should be a lot of fun. And Clark, go ahead.
The next year they're going to be establishing these guys as major players.
Yes.
And David Finlay is going to be slowly moved into the main event scene, which he should be.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I love Finlay. I love what he's doing.
He's definitely leveling up, man. He is.
He is taking that Jay White spot, like he said, and he's running with it.
and he's doing something completely different than what Jay White did. which is why it will work. And Jay White did something completely different than Kenny Omega.
Exactly.
And Kenny Omega was completely different than AJ Styles, and AJ was completely different than Prince Devitt or Finn Balor. So the success of Bullet Club, it's probably one of the longest running stables in the history of wrestling right now.
Yeah, because it continues to evolve.
It continues to evolve, which again is why Ghetto is a fantastic booker.
Yeah.
The House of Torture stuff aside, we can look at the rest of
Bullet Club. All be winners.
Exactly.
I mean, look at the Evil situation. Like
they put. Speaking of ROH, they had a House of Torture match last week, minus Evil. they faced Rocky and Trimperetta. Also, so
Roppongi Vice.
Yes, Roppongi Vice, and so we got that match.
With Clark Connors and Clark, I think they'll win.
And I think also that's probably eventually going to set up Finlay versus Connors down the line. I could see them battling for power because Clark Connors is like, and I love David Finlay, but Clark Connors is special, I think, and I think they're going to do something with him. I'm really looking forward to.
He's eventually going to become a heavyweight for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And credit to New Japan too in bringing all the young lions in to be a part of this new Bullet Club.
Yes. Agreed. So then we have yet another tag team match. Did Teddy Long book this show?
I guess so. I pulled them straight off their website.
No, I'm just saying there. I didn't realize there's so many tag teams.
In fairness, their undercards usually start with a whole bunch of...
This is true. So this is actually for another title. This is for the Strong Openweight Tag Team Championship. So this was the titles that Aussie Open had to give up with Mark Davis's his surgery, and so Bishamon, which is Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto won those titles back at Dominion. They will be facing the other half of War Dog, which is Alex Coughlin and Gabe Kidd for the titles. I definitely see a title change here as well. Definitely see Bullet Club is going to have a lot of gold by the end of these two nights. I think that's where they're going with this. Wait, okay.
Should I go back?
No, I didn't know if you had anything you guys wanted to add to about this one.
This will be good because
Brad,
Bishamon, Yoshihashi, and that's Brad's comment. It's true.
What do you say?
So Brad said, remember how like Alex Coughlin still hasn't blinked after taking this picture? I saved that shot. Somebody has got that screenshot of Alex Coughlin where his eyes are like huge. He looks like he's got like his Mance Warner eyes. They're like bugging out of his head, and I screenshot it because I was like, "Oh, this is a perfect reaction picture."
You use it for the little eye react. It's like the super eye react.
Yes.
He looks like Ron Swanson when someone suggests he has a salad instead of bacon.
Yes, 100%.
But yes, that's
the
stare of death. Yes, that's the stare of death. I don't know if the title will change here.
Okay.
Because Yoshihashi and Goto are like, they're kind of like the aces of the tag division right now.
That is true.
I think that
is true. And if they're going to keep doing strong, so maybe they'll come over and do some strong stuff when they do some more strong shows in the States, or if they keep doing them in Japan. Yeah, that's a fair point, Josiah. You make a good point.
Like, I mean, they've really been pushing these two as the like substitutes.
They're so like who
I like it. I
do too. I'm a fan. Yeah, I never would have thought this tag team would work, but it does. And Yoshihashi really found his groove 3 or 4 years ago now, and he's just become this completely different wrestler. Yeah, he's become this completely different wrestler that I had no clue was in there. And I'm glad that he found it, and he's great. I really enjoy it, and I love Goto. So I love them together.
Yeah. This Bishamon is like an example of one of those times where Gato was like, "I'm giving you this," and I'm like, "But why?" And then a few months later, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I understand." It's the same with it's like the Just Five Guys thing. It's like, I didn't know I needed this. I absolutely do.
I always need Chris Charlton singing, though. I was very disappointed during the buy-in, and I was like, or when Sonata came out, I was like, where's Chris Charlton to sing for me? I need him to sing for that's why the Sonata match wasn't as well. Maybe that's why it wasn't as well received. It's because he didn't have Chris Charlton singing for him.
Maybe. I'm going to the next one now.
That's fine. So one of the biggest, most talked about matches. Before we get to their singles match, there's a really big women's tag team match, which is still really great to see. Strong having women's matches and having this caliber of talent that we get to see. And so we have night one. We'll have a tag team match. Excuse me, and it will have Willow pairing with Momo Kogo, who was in. If you watched Resurgence, Momo was in the tournament to crown the first ever strong women's champion. And Momo, I had never seen her before, and I was very impressed with her. I really liked what I saw. And then on the other side of the ring, we're gonna have Julia, and is it Thekla? Is that how you pronounce her name, or am I
correct?
Okay, I was like, I want to make sure. And I'm not familiar with her, but somebody was telling me that she was really good, and they were glad that she was getting this spot.
Well, that's good.
So, and Brad said, I really wasn't expecting them to add the women's matches since they announced full cards already. Well, lucky for us, it seems like Ghetto likes women's wrestling.
Or he understands that
American. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe
we like women's wrestling.
I was going to say, I was the one that told you about, not this time about Thekla, but it was when they announced her announced Steph DeLander in Impact for that match or whatever it was. And I was like, for a very brief second, I thought it was Thekla. But then I was like, no, that's not her.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you about that at some point, Sam.
Yes, you did. Yes, now that you say that, I do remember that. Yes, I do remember.
But there's an argument to be made. Julia's the best wrestler in the world.
Yes.
So
I'm excited to see her wrestle. Because I've only hearing about her, and I haven't really
She was on the crossover show. Tom Lawler is a huge fan of hers.
I know this. That's right. Oh yeah, yes, I have seen her wrestle.
Yes, because it was her and Tom
and that was a really good. That was a lot of fun.
Who was ZSJ's partner? It was why am I blanking on who ZSJ
was? It one
historic crossover, right? I'll look it up.
Yes. Brad says that Thekla is awesome. Very happy for her to get the spot. Also, Julia and Thekla are 2 of 3 members of DDM and hold the Artists of Stardom, their trios titles. Thank you, Brad. And yes, thank you, Matt. It was Shuri. Yes, thank you. I don't know why I blanked on that. Yes, Brad confirms. Oh, it was Tom and Shuri versus ZSJ and Julia. That's right. They were opposite.
That was such a fun match.
Because on a Figure 4 Daily, they were like, Brian was suggested, hey, Tom, do you want to have a match with Shuri? He said, no, I don't want to die. and so he's like, I will tag with her, but I will not wrestle her.
Excellent. That's Tom Lawler saying that, folks.
That's fantastic.
Well, Shuri has an MMA background. And she hits very hard, very hard in her matches.
Right on, girl.
Yeah, so I'm ready. I'm interested. I'm definitely ready to see Thekla and get more exposure to some of it. But yeah, I really liked Momo, so I'm excited for this one.
All right, I'm going to the next one.
Okay. Speaking of Filthy Tom, Tom Lawler will be facing Fujita. If he can get to Japan, because this morning I saw when I was going to tweet about our show, Tom had tweeted this morning saying that Delta had screwed him in traveling for the last 2 days, and he wasn't sure if he's going to make it to Japan. He is trying his best to get there.
This week has been a freaking a-hole to Tom.
Yeah. Well, and even
out.
Alley Catch got stuck in Canada for days because she was up last weekend to perform. I think she was wrestling for, it was Eve or something like. She was wrestling for a women's show, and then she went to watch Billy Starks wrestle at Forbidden Door. Was supposed to be going home that night, and she had to. Her flights kept getting canceled. She was sitting in the airport for hours. I think she ended up finally taking a bus, got home, and had to turn around and fly right back out because she had a match last night for Wrestling Revolver. So traveling has not been kind to, and I think part of it was she couldn't get into New York, and I think it was because of the wildfires. So I think was causing some issues. Probably.
And there was also the Canadian, when we were there, the day we drove in, they had to ground all the flights at Toronto at the airport because somebody there was a hack in their ground in there. This has been happening about places in the West where they've been grounding airlines nav, like they can't. What essentially happens is that it affects their communication with the towers, so they can't land the planes. So they've got planes like circling, and they have to do all this crazy crap. So they had to ground that day. They had grounded all flights into Toronto Pearson, and I was like, "Wow, it's a good thing that this is only like." I mean, we joked because it's 30 minutes to the bridge. And then 4 hours to Toronto. Like, it's so from here, it's 30 minutes to get to Canada and cross over. But then it's the next 4 hours that you're getting to Toronto. But I can't imagine. That's like a huge. That's like the Toronto's like the New York City of Canada.
It's gigantic.
It's such a huge international city.
Yeah.
It's got a massive financial district. I can't even imagine. That sucks.
I believe Yonge Street in Toronto is the longest singular street in possibly the world, but in North America, continuously.
That's crazy.
You can start.
And I mean, it's Midwest Canada because it's where we are. So that's where it's how I understand it. Because like Josiah and I were joking about this, is that we're both from Northeast Canada, from North Atlantic, Northeast Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm from Southern Maine originally, so we were like neighbors. We didn't even really realize it.
Yeah.
But it's totally different. So this air quality has been just down, because here in Detroit we had the third or second worst one of the days air quality in the world.
Yeah, and we're still under, and we're obviously way down in Charlotte, and we're still under code orange. We've been under code orange for the last few days. It had kind of eased up, but then the last few days on top of having a heat index you guys are in the heat dome. You're in the heat dome. It's been really, really hot. It's been in the upper 80s. And so on top of that, we're still under the code orange on top. We've got both of those.
It's okay, Sam, because the earth goes through cycles where it replenishes itself. So says my psychiatrist. Anyway, so yes, I'm going to.
So maybe talk about.
So what do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, so possibly we have Filthy Tom versus Vegeta. Still a question.
I hope that happens.
Yeah, I know. Poor Tom, like you said, he's had the worst possible luck. Adam Cole was sick last week, and he ended up taking out all his frustration out on Serpentico. Now he's might not be able to make it to Japan. So
I literally found that out when we were having wings. Sam messaged me that message when we had right before you guys had gotten there. And
I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know if Mel's going to be able to see this in time. So I was like,
when we were walking into the establishment, you had texted me and I sat down. I was like, what's up with Sam? And I was like, no.
Oh, that was my reaction too when I saw that it was canceled. And then I was like, at least Serpentico probably had his clothes and catering, so he can. Good thing that Serpentico is super versatile and can do anything at a moment's notice. Because he did say in the media scrum the scrum afterwards that he really liked Tom Lawler. He hopes that they can redo Cole versus Lawler down the line. He knows Lawler has a lot of stuff going on with New Japan, so basically it's a scheduling type thing, and they're hoping to get it together. And then. So this time we have a trios match about the tag team, and I was like, nope, there's 6 people in this picture. So we have Alex Zane, and I can never pronounce. Is it Owa? I always pronounce his last name wrong.
Rohei Oiwa.
Oh wait, okay. Because I was like, I always want to say it the way it's spelled, and then I was like, that's not right. It's like every.
I'm not even messing with that. No.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to insult the Japanese man's name.
With Lance Archer against West Coast Wrecking Crew, we've got JR Kratos, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. And Brad said those. What was that?
Say it, Royce.
That's what Tom calls him. He calls him twice.
I know. It's hilarious.
Brad said those are his boys, West Coast Wrecking Crew. I love this so much for them. Love this for them so much. And West Coast Wrecking Crew is great. I really enjoy them.
I will. One of the good things to come out of NWA was Aaron Stevens, when he was teaming with JR Kratos or Kratos, he would call him Kratos.
Fantastic.
I love that stuff.
That's great.
And Kratos would be like,
yeah. Yeah, I bet. Brad said he's great to see Alex Zane return to New Japan. Yeah, I was really excited to see Alex Zane on here. I'm a huge fan of Alex Zane, and I love him in Japan. And in Strong, he's phenomenal. And Nikki says I was VVV sad about Tom Lawler. Yeah, I was really bummed about that. I was really so I hope he can make it to Japan. But this match I think will be a lot of fun. Lance Archer in New Japan is a completely different Lance Archer than AEW. Like, I really enjoy his, like, when I first started watching New Japan, he was still in KES, and then he left and he had back surgery and he came back, and I was like, wait, this is the same guy. Like, I was like, where is this
different guy?
Yeah, I was like, this Lance Archer is like, I didn't know he was in there.
I didn't know he was until I watched like one of my first Best of Super Juniors.
I knew who he was because he was in WCW as Lance Hoyt.
Yeah,
and I had a trading card of him somewhere, and the reason I recognize him is because of his stamp tattoo that he had at the time that he still has. He's now made it into a full back piece, but it was that's how I knew. I was like, wait a minute, that's Lance Hoyt. I know. And then he was actually in WWE for a little bit. He was Vance Archer.
Yes, because he was Lance Hoyt in TNA. And he had the tramp stamp, as you said, but there was also the Hoyt section in TNA in the Impact Zone. They would just chant Hoyt the whole show. Because the reason being is because he went out drinking with them after the shows, I think. So which was quite funny. But Lance is a guy, like, he was always good with the Killer Elite Squad with Davey Boy Smith Jr., he came back for that singles run, and he was like, I got my career back after this nearly career-ending back surgery, and I am going full force. The Rock and Rave infection with Jimmy Rave. Oh my goodness. Yes, so when they played the Guitar Hero guitars with Christy Hemme as their manager.
Yes, and Brad said the Rock and Rave infection.
So Lance is great. Alex Zane is great. I saw him live here in Ottawa with C4. And he just got back from Best of Super Juniors at that point, and it was really nice.
That was where I discovered him, and I was like, this guy is awesome. Like, when he showed up in AEW, I was like, no, you don't understand, this guy can rock. And then they haven't used him the same way that New Japan Lance Archer is. The Murder Hawk Monster is my guy.
Brad said Lance is the one guy. It'd be okay if he didn't re-sign with AEW and went back to New Japan.
Yeah, same, probably.
Because I think they would use him better. I mean, I know he was having some injury issues, and that was part of it too. But yeah, they don't.
Still, I don't think they know how to book him.
This match, I'm looking forward to. Oh, Josiah, did we mute you? Okay, got it. All right, so this next match is going to be the DKC versus our guy Bad Dude Tito, and I am so excited that Bad Dude Tito is getting to go back to Japan because I was bummed. Mel and I were hoping he was going to be in the G1 because TMDK has been, it's basically been poor Tito has been kind of left out of all the TMDK stuff, and they don't, his name's still not up on the graphic. I checked during Forbidden Door when the little wheel was coming up, and I was like, you still don't, I was like, Tito was in this group before Zack Sabre Jr. Put Tito's name on the entrance video. But I'm glad to see, not only is he going to Japan, he's getting a singles match against the DKC, who was killing it in Strong when Strong was still and it is still a thing, but like when it was what we knew it as, he was always killing it, and I'm really excited that he gets the spot. I think this match is going to be a lot of fun. I think the Japanese fans are really going to like. We last year we said that we thought they were really going to like Filthy Tom and we were
We were
correct.
right.
And I think they're gonna like Tito. I think
A
that
lot.
yeah, I think the fans are gonna.
There's nothing not to like.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that match. I think it's gonna be a good one.
Let's see here.
All right, what else do we have?
We got Taguchi and let me get this bigger here.
There's so many people in this match too. Did I miss this match getting announced? Because I don't remember this one.
Is this on here? It says night 1.
Yeah, it's another 6-man tag match.
6-man tag match. Okay.
Yes.
Oscar Lube, Yo, Ryusuke Taguchi, and we've got Kango, Katori, and Dragon Libre.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing
All right.
this.
Well, we're gonna unless
and I'm not super familiar. I'm only familiar with I think
Taguchi?
2 of the people. Basically that side. Yeah. Well, and yeah. So basically that side I'm familiar with, but I'm not familiar with the other.
Is this a crossover match or something? I feel like maybe these guys might be from like Noah or something.
That's what I was gonna ask.
I don't. I'm not sure. Let me bring up the card again because I closed it.
Josiah's going to help us out with this one because I don't remember this match being announced. I must have missed it because I don't remember this one being announced. But I'm always interested to see people I'm not familiar with. So, especially on these type of shows, because then I'm like, wow, how have I never heard of these people before?
The other guys, Yo and Taguchi, are the only guys who have Wikipedia pages. So I don't know.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on.
Wait.
Nope. Go back.
Yep. Thank you, Brad. Brad says that Katori and Dragon Libre are from Freedoms, which is Jun Kasai's company.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad.
Very cool. Thank you, Brad.
All right. Well, all right. We're still going to keep going because we got a night 2 here.
Yes.
So, there's the first night 2.
Well, this is probably going to be the main event of night 2.
I would assume so.
It has been announced as the main event. And,
yes. So, it has. Okay, so I assumed as soon as we got the tag match, I was like, oh, we're going to get a singles match on night 2. And we did. So we have El Desperado versus John Moxley in a final death match, which it may have been Josiah that was explaining to me what exactly a final death match is. And it is a death match. But I believe it is a bit more extreme. Especially
I actually don't know.
Okay, maybe it was not. Somebody was telling me the difference between a final death match. Maybe it was Brad. Somebody told me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure there will be a lot of
because you don't really like that sort of thing.
But. It depends on what it is, and I think a lot of it is I'm getting because I've been watching a lot of GCW and I've been watching Wrestling Revolver. Like last night, I watched the Cage of Horrors match from Wrestling Revolver,
building up a tolerance,
which was SGC versus the Rascals, and there were a lot of. It was basically a War Games match. Where they were bringing them in every 2 minutes, and then once the full team got in there, then it was you win by submission or pinfall. There were lots of weapons, unfortunately. Oh, and so I did get it. There was an update on Trey Miguel. So midway through the match, Matthew Raywoldt said that Trey Miguel was getting rushed to the hospital. He wasn't sure if what had happened had been caught on camera. And then he said it again later on that he had been rushed to the hospital. And then I couldn't find anything. And also Twitter was being stupid and I couldn't read anything. So I had to go under the Powerbombshells account and nobody was talking about it, not even Wrestling Revolver. But I saw Trey Miguel post a picture today and he's made a reference to PCO and he had a picture of his arm and it was sewed up. So I guess last night Nikki saw there was a move, there was something that was happening on the outside with that involved some tables and he was pushing the table onto someone or something. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if Nikki's still here, but it was something that clearly was not supposed to happen. And so it sounds like he is okay.
That's good. I was worried when you mentioned that last night.
Yeah, because I couldn't find anything else. And I was like, I don't think this is a storyline thing, especially because he didn't come back. Like Nikki's like, well, maybe he'll come back later in the match. And this is the thing. We never came back. And so we were like, okay, so he must have legit gone to the hospital. Nobody was talking about it. And I was like, what in the world happened? Like, what made them go to the hospital like immediately during the middle of the match? Like, what in the world happened? But it sounds like he cut his arm pretty badly.
Hopefully he's not out for too long from that.
Yeah. But yeah, so then I guess we'll go on to the next match because Mel has put up a new picture.
Were you guys?
No, I didn't know if they wanted to add anything else about that match. But
Moxley and Phantasmo match, if anyone wants to, I can put it back.
No, it's not Phantasmo. It's El Desperado.
I'm sorry, Desperado. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that match will be insane, and I will probably not watch it because I don't like match wrestling. But they are both going to bleed a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think they will bleed more in the final death match than the match that actually has Jun Kasai in it?
I don't know. That's going to be.
There's a lot of blood.
I'm gonna do a blood rating. Well, what is it? The
Muda scale.
The Muda scale. I'll do a Muda scale for both nights.
Yeah.
And then another match that a lot of people are looking forward to. Eddie Kingston is making his return to Japan. He's back following his hernia surgery, and he is coming for Kenta for the Strong Championship, probably in part because Kenta said that Eddie Kingston was from New Jersey. And
Which is just unforgivable.
And Eddie's gonna murder him for that.
I don't blame him.
Kenta's apparently getting the bag here.
I was from New Jersey. I'd want to beat their ass too. So.
And you know how Eddie is about that anyway. And so Kenta is apparently getting paid very well, so he will show up for this match. Brad says, I want Eddie to win this so damn badly. I really want that to happen because Eddie can't get the belt in Ring of Honor. He obviously can't do it. He's not able to get the EW belts. He's not been able to beat Claudio for the Ring of Honor championship. It seems like Claudio might be hanging on that a little bit. Eddie will be, and even if Eddie had the ROH title, he's going to be in the G1. I would like to see, but Kenta's also in the G1, correct? Yes, they're both in the G1. So yes, I personally would like to see Eddie Kingston win it anyway. And I do like Kenta. I am a fan of his. But I would like to see Eddie Kingston. I just want Eddie Kingston to have a title. So why not here? Oh, Nikki said, real quick, back to the match with Trey Miguel. It was on the inside. A bunch of them were in the corner, and he was at the top to push everyone through the table or through a door. And I guess when the door split, it tore his arm open.
Oh, jeez.
That is horrifying.
That's awful.
Because we went back so we started the match with the Cage of Horrors match because we weren't sure if we were going to watch the whole thing last night, and then we ended up watching it, and so we rewatched Cage of Horrors, but I missed that part. I think was like walking out of the room or something like that, and Nikki caught what happened on the outside because it wasn't super visible on the screen, and there was so much happening during that match that it was kind of, because there was 6 people in the ring. There were all kinds of weapons and things like that, and
it sounds like a CZW or CZW. I went Canadian for a second. Cage of Death. That's what it sounds like.
I'm not. I don't know. I mean, I know what Cage of Death is, but yeah, that would probably be pretty similar to that, and especially the Revolver matches I've seen, a lot of them are very violent, very bloody, especially when they involve SGC. That's their type of violence. That's their type of thing that they do, which I really like SGC. Both sides, because not all of their matches are like that. Some of them, especially if you've seen them on MLW and things like that, some of them are a little bit more tame. But there is, once they get to that threshold, then they step it up and go to a completely different level. But the Rascals have too, in the few matches I've seen of them in Revolver. It was the perfect match for both groups. And it sucks that somebody got hurt like that. And like you said, hopefully it won't be something that keeps them out of action for too long. And so we can go back to the strong card.
All right, the strong card is right here. Boom.
Okay, so on night 2,
hang on. What is this? We already talked about this one.
Okay, here we go. So night 2, we get this is probably the match that everybody is talking about besides the final death match, because Julia threw out a challenge to Willow Nightingale a couple of weeks ago. It was last Saturday, and then Willow responded, I think, at Forbidden Door, or on the same day as Forbidden Door, rather. And Willow was like, I'm a fighting champion. Let's go. And so I think a lot of people, they're really looking forward to this match. They think that this is going to be a place for Willow to shine. But I think a lot of us have the same consensus that this is going to be where Willow drops the title.
Probably.
Because they're going to course correct put the title on Julia until Mercedes is healed up and ready to go, and then Julia will drop the belt back to Mercedes. Then perhaps we get Mercedes versus Willow again, a title rematch down the line at some point.
It would not have surprised me if the original match plan for Forbidden Door was Mercedes and Toni Storm, and with non-title, just champion versus champion, and then Mercedes would go on to this show to either lose or defend the title. But to credit to Tony Khan and New Japan, they have done a good job with Willow going with the punches, and also credit to Mercedes knowing she was hurt.
Yep.
And calling the audible to have Willow win the title. And she made Willow in one night.
She sure did. She sure did. That is, and I think that speaks a lot of what Mercedes sees in Willow for her too, because Mercedes could have easily won that title and then vacated it the next day and had a new tournament or whatever. But she thought quickly, and she gave Willow that moment, which I think is incredible. And I'm so happy for Willow that she got that, because I think Tony, I do think he likes Willow, and I think but he also says a lot of the correct things. And I think the fans love Willow more than Tony loves Willow. And so I am concerned about what happens with her. I do think Brad is correct that he gives her the Owen to give her some sort of a consolation prize, but he's not going to put her in the title picture, especially because Chris Statlander just got the TBS title. Don't know that Jamie is going to be losing. I mean, I'm sorry, Tony is going to be losing the title anytime soon. And so, but he's got to keep Willow at the forefront, because Willow has gotten herself over. I mean, she was already over, but that night, like you said, it made her. And he's got to follow through with that somehow.
And to be fair, in the way that they're booking right now, it doesn't make sense for her to beat either Statlander or Toni Storm right now. Like, those are the right people to be champions right now.
Sure. Right.
And so he's in a difficult position where someone has gotten to a level of being over to a certain extent that they weren't quite ready for.
Right. Well, and it's kind of like the Acclaimed when they when they got super over, and then Swerve and Our Glory retained, and they ended up they didn't call the audible. Then they did the rematch in 2 weeks, and they dropped the titles. Then I don't see that obviously happening here, but it is kind of the same way as the fans. That's who they love, and that's who they are gonna support. And sometimes it forces their hands. And I mean, and Tony is somebody who will, for the most part, if he can help it, sticks to his plans. Like they lay out who their champions are, and then certain things happen, and obviously injuries happen, and you can't, you have to do the best that you can, which is obviously what ended up happening here with Mercedes, and that that affects two different companies, and so they have made the best of it that they can, but it does put Willow in a tough spot, because once she drops this title, it's going to be hard for her to get back in a title picture, unless they don't go the Jordynne Grace, or unless Jordynne Grace eventually, she ends up winning the title from Athena, and then she hangs on to it for a little bit and then drops it to Willow. I could see that potentially happening.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
When you have so many people in a position to where they can step up and move up the card, because like Impact a few months ago when Josh Alexander got hurt, and they were like, well, what next?
Yeah, they put all their eggs in one basket.
And he's gone.
Yep.
And they had no one that could step up except Macklin. Macklin was the plan.
But later on.
But I was sure Macklin was going to beat Alexander. But at the same time, it's like, wow, they got dealt a really bad card. And it's the thing that, like, this is where Tony has learned a lot from New Japan. Because when Okada got hurt, and when Will Ospreay got hurt, Shingo Takagi was the champion.
Yeah,
and Ibushi was hurt at that point too. So that title was cursed for the first like 3 champions.
Yeah, it really was.
And then Shingo wins it and holds it for a year. Right?
Yeah, and Shingo was an incredible champion.
Exactly, and so you have a roster depth of like 5 or 6 core guys, and then beyond that you have like another 4 to 6 guys who can move into that position if need be. And AEW is very much like that, and so is Ring of Honor, And New Japan has done that with their Stardom has done that with their booking with their women as well. And it's nice that they were been able to do that with Willow as well. So like if something happens to Statlander or Tony Storm, Willow can step up into that position.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brad says real quick before we go on to the next thing, he said it made for an awkward moment since the ref didn't know what was going on, but Mercedes showed just who she is with that on the fly call. Much respect to her. Absolutely.
Very unselfish.
Yeah.
Very unselfish.
Yes. And she knew Willow was the person, and she knew what Willow could do, and that Willow, given that chance, what she could do. And Willow has done a phenomenal job, and I just hope it doesn't. I hope that it, that they find a way to keep her, even if she's not in the title picture, that they keep her in the front of the women's division, because she is somebody that the fans really have gotten behind even before this title. But I think even more so, and because she got Mercedes' stamp of approval, like that carries a lot of weight, I think.
I just figured out what happened with the tag match.
Yes, what is that?
So the first night is for the strong titles. The second night is for the IWGP.
Okay, so they're not doing both title matches. Got it. Okay,
right. So back-to-back nights, the War Dogs could win one of those championships.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm guessing that's what's going to happen, because
yes.
Goto and Yoshihashi are holding both the strong openweight and
that's right, because they won. That's right, because Aussie Open vacated both sets of titles, and Bishamon won both sets. That's correct. So thank you, Josiah, for correcting and for setting us straight.
I had to set myself straight with that one because I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
What's next?
All right. Oh, man, I hope this match happens. This one, the next match is it's Ishii and Tana and the DKC versus Filthy Tom, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. So West Coast Wrecking Crew. I mean, Team Filthy over here. I really hope we get this match because it's going to be a lot of fun.
I just love that picture of Ishii.
He does not want to be. He's like, please get me away from Tana.
Are we done?
Yeah.
He's got camera out of my face.
He hates teaming with Tanahashi.
Yeah, he does. It's so great just looking at his disdain the whole time he's standing there with Tana and Okada.
He's so disgusted. He hates his air guitar so much.
I would rather be anywhere else. Please let me forearm and headbutt some people and then go home.
I want to take a real guitar and beat you down.
It is funny though when there was a time where Chaos always did this wacky pose during the middle of the match, and Ishii would join in, which was so funny.
Yeah, Ishii, he has really great, when he needs to, he knows how to bring out the comedic timing. And
I'll never get over that picture in the G1 where he put on this huge goofy smile on his face.
Fantastic.
He's great. But yeah, I really hope we get this match. Please let Wrestling Goddesses, please make sure Tom Lawler gets to Japan. Oh, this match is going to be fun too. I remember seeing this one. So night 2, we have Alex Zane and Lance Archer teaming against Bad Dude Tito and Vegeta. So that match should be a lot of fun too. I think there's going to be a lot of hard hitting stuff, especially between Lance Archer and Tito. I think would be a lot.
Mean guy match.
Yeah, mean guy match. Definitely.
Mean guy match. Call that the mean guy match.
Brad has a comment about the previous match.
I'll go back.
He said DKC will eat the pin here, but imagine Tom getting the pin on Tana to set up for a never open 6-man title match with Tom, West Coast Wrecking Crew versus Ishii, Tana, and Okada. And now that you have spoken that into existence, Brad, I need it to happen. I would like it.
Unfortunately, I don't think Tana is losing before the G1.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But it would still be a fun match to have. I would still like it.
It would be great.
Let's see. So another match, we've got Yo and Rocky Romero versus 2/4 of the War Dogs. We've got Clark Connors or I guess I should half of the War Dogs would make more sense. Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. I am gonna have to get used. I know that he was called Drilla in Rev Pro, I believe. I'm gonna have to get used to calling him that.
That's his move, so I think I can make the leap.
That is true. Yeah.
It's one of his, and Kevin Kelly was selling it hard enough that I can be like, okay, yeah, all right. I'm trying to just.
Well, it's funny because it's Drilla and it's very close to Dunkzilla, and that's what I hardly ever say Mark Davis. I call him Dunk 99% of the time, and so I'm gonna want to probably say Dunkzilla instead of Drilla, and I know I'm gonna end up probably saying that the wrong thing on the show.
It's like the Jeopardy. It's the before and after category. It's the
right.
So
Josiah, what were you gonna say?
So for Drilla Maloney here, Dan Maloney, I remember. Have you guys? It's a terrible thing, but the Iron Sheik shoot interview from like 2006.
I don't know.
With Dan Marati.
Uh-huh.
During the shoot interview, he keeps calling Dan Marati Dan Maloney. And he's like, "You're a very smart man, Mr. Maloney."
He's doing it on purpose because he's the Iron Sheik and he's a troll. And...
well, and he was cussing all the time at people,
awesome.
Of course, and he said many horrible things that he would do to certain people, breaking their backs. But yes, he kept calling him. It was his agent at the time, and he kept calling him Dan Maloney. And no, that's not a gimmick. He legitimately called him Dan Maloney all the time, like even afterwards. So whenever I see him, I can't help but think of the Iron.
And now
Sheik.
That's what I'm going to think about.
Yeah. So maybe that will help you remember.
Thank you for that, Josiah, because now I'm going to think about that.
So maybe I'll help you remember Drilla. Just remember.
Yes, there we go.
There you go.
All right, what else we got on this card? All right, we have Josiah. Say his last name again.
Rohei Oiwa.
Thank you. And Homicide versus TJP and Akira. They don't have their title. Did they have their titles on in the first picture? Because they don't have them. Wait, they have titles, right? Or no?
Yeah,
am I confusing them?
The junior.
Yeah, the junior. So I was like, they don't have their titles on, but maybe they had their titles on in the first. Didn't have them in the first picture either.
I'm guessing this is a non-title match. So.
Yes, probably so. So yes, this will probably be one of the early matches on the card.
Earliest matches on the card. Here we go.
And then we have Oscar. It's Lube, right? Lube.
Is it Loive or Lube?
Yeah.
My
guy.
Yeah, it is Lube. That's what I thought, and I was like, I always think that I'm getting it. See, and that's one of the ones I know it's right, and then I'm like, wait, and then I second guess myself, and then
don't second guess yourself. Anymore.
I know,
you got it.
Versus JR Kratos. Kratos is. I mean, this will still probably. I'm sure he's going to get in a little bit of offense, but I think Kratos probably is going to.
But my money is on Kratos.
Yes, Kratos.
Kratos.
I really need him to say his name like that, though. Kratos.
Okay,
it fits him. Night 2 also has Taguchi. Is it Oleg?
And Master Wado
versus Master Wado's getting a spot. Was Dragon Libre, Katori, and is that Rekka?
Looks like it.
And I assume Rekka is probably also from Freedoms, which is what we talked about earlier, which is Jun Kasai's deal. So that is. Go ahead.
I suspect either Oleg takes the pin or Master Wado gets the pin.
Yeah, I was gonna say because he just won Best of Super Juniors. They need to do something with him now. I'm
glad they're
put him on
putting
Forbidden Door or anything because he's pretty obscure. But I mean, they're gonna need to do something with him.
I'm glad they got him. That's what I'm saying. I'm glad they got him on these shows because I think Wado needs to be in, especially because he's going to be out of the picture when G1 starts.
Yeah,
so
right.
They need to have him do something right before then.
I think that was it.
Was that the final? All right.
So we have holy crap. We made it to the end of the thing.
There's a ton of matches on both nights. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing some new people. I really hope Filthy Tom Lawler makes it and can have these matches. I'm interested to see what Final Death is and if it's too much for me.
Hopefully it is not the final death of any of them.
I hope not.
Agreed.
Oh boy. All right. So do you have any?
At least with Moxley and Desperado, they're both great workers.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything that causes any lasting
That'll be
damage.
fun.
Yeah, they know how to work with each other, and Despy really seemed to want to wrestle Moxley again. So I think he was just like, I need to bleed. Oh, Nikki did have I'm gonna read we're gonna go over the Patreon thing one more time, but Nikki has an update on Kevin Pierce that just came up. Kevin Pierce he actually refereed for New Japan Strong, so it ends up being interesting timing. because she asked me before if I wanted her to tell it, but I wanted to get through the card first. But he is a referee. He was a referee for PWX. He was a referee for Deadlock Pro. He did New Japan Strong and some other places as well. And a few months ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. And Nikki is going to type an update for us really quick. But while she is doing that, I wanted to, which is not a great segue here, but I do want to, since we are wrapping up, I do want to remind everybody that if you miss it at the beginning of the show, that this month is going to be free for the Fight Game Media Patreon. The link is right up there. And for those of you who are listening on audio, we will be posting the link. Hopefully you can see Twitter and you will be able to see it.
We'll put it on IG too. Powerbombshell. We're at Powerbombshells pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, so make sure you're definitely following us on Instagram because if Twitter blows up,
we might have to like take pictures of this stuff and post it on it. And I did have a good time like using that for doing like
I'm really glad that you did. I really enjoyed it. I went back and added some hashtags to see if that would help anything.
Yeah, no,
just to see if
I think that's a good idea, and I'm glad that we have it. So definitely check that out. But
yes,
go check out the free Patreon this month because there's a lot of good content on there.
So you can and so that's for non-subscribers. You'll be able to get free content every single week. There will be they're going to be making one of the shows available to everyone, and so you'll get to see the variety of stuff that's on there. Of course, if you're on the YouTube channel where you're watching us, and if you are, so I definitely recommend subscribing, or if you're listening on audio, please come subscribe. But there's also content from each show posted on. There's like little 10 minute or less clips that are posted, so you can see the variety of things that are open on there as well. And do you guys, while we're waiting for this, do you have any final thoughts of anything from Forbidden Door, ROH, AEW, New Japan?
Well, I guess I can just plug where you can find my stuff.
Yes, please
definitely
do.
Let's do that.
So we'll see if I reactivate, but I was on Twitter at WR_Central. I am also that on Instagram. You can follow me there, and I'm also that on Discord. So I don't use Discord very often, though. I use it, but the Fight Game Media Discord, I'll pop in and say one comment like once every month.
That's enough. That's enough. Just checking in, seeing how we're doing.
I was told I got completely. I was not expecting this. A friend got an advanced copy of AEW Fight Forever and sent it to me.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, great. So I had it a few days before other people did, and I mentioned that to Preet somewhere in I think Facebook message, and Preet immedially went to the Discord and started. It was saying he was jealous of me, and I was like, "Oh, I have to respond to this."
Well, of course, he called you out.
yes, I've been called out. Follow me at Instagram at WR_Central.
We'll retweet that. I would have had the banner made if I had been a little more proactive, but we'll get you retweeted and re-Instagrammed.
And also, you can follow my writing, my Impact Wrestling recaps every week at f4wonline.com/wrestlingobserver.com, where I cover the ins and outs of Impact Wrestling. And thank God, no more NWA Power.
That's what I'm saying. No longer has to suffer through NWA Power, because I don't know how Josiah is still here with us.
Yeah,
after
you're brave.
That.
It's hard to believe that show used to be my favorite weekly show, and just 2022 onwards, just dropped through the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so give me.
How do you really feel?
And then I was at Impact, and I'm like, Impact is much better. It's a much more enjoyable show.
Yes, a lot better. They've had some really good stuff over there. So I do have the update from Nikki on Pierce. She said Pierce has been through 6 rounds of chemo, and all of his tumors have shrunk in his liver that they fast-tracked his surgery, and he is having surgery tomorrow, and they just found this out 2 days ago. So he will be having surgery tomorrow.
That's good. That's
so
really
please
positive.
keep him in your thoughts. I will pop up he still has an active GoFundMe, so I will pop that up on Twitter Twitter as well.
That's
If you're
incredibly
able to donate anything, please do. If you can't, that's perfectly fine. Retweeting helps. Bringing awareness definitely helps. And so I'm glad to hear that. Brad says those 8-hour NWA pay-per-views must have been so much fun, and he said it's sarcasm.
I'm so glad I didn't have to cover the 2 nights of the Crockett Cup. I was away.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you didn't either. Josiah would tell us what was happening in Daily DDT like every single week, so I always had an idea of what was going on, and I don't know how he suffered.
I'm glad that he had a good support system around him.
Yeah, he definitely told us. He would be like, "Let me tell you what's happening," and he would tell us, like,
I'm dying, guys.
Yes,
thank goodness. Thank you, Daily
week.
DDT, for keeping him sane and his mental wellness.
Oh, thank God.
Joseph said you guys are still going. Thought I'd miss you this week. We are
on our way out the door.
We ended up having an ROH Love Fest that was unplanned, but it ended up for very good conversation. So we were really glad to have that. So Daza, please check out the rest of the show. And we are really glad that Josiah was able to make time for us today. It was really cool getting both of your perspectives. Daza, you also have to see at the beginning, because Mel brought something specifically that she saved for this show that she did not give to the Speaking of Strong Style show, that she gave us something specific. So you'll have to go back and watch that. And if you're on the audio, you should probably just go check that out, because it's very cool to see. And
then you can click subscribe on the Facebook or on the YouTube, which will really, really help out the channel.
Yes, that is a free way to help all the content creators at Fight Game Media, is by subscribing. Sharing also helps too. Liking the videos also helps.
Talking the video comments.
But definitely liking. I know you hear the like, comment, subscribe, because that's how this YouTube algorithm works. So definitely help with all of those easy little things are super helpful. And we will be back next week at our regular time. We will probably be previewing G1, because that's our next big thing. It's G1 season, or it's tournament season in Japan, because I know several different promotions are having tournaments about to start.
Starting soon, the five-star Grand Prix. Noah's doing the N1. So
yes, and then I believe that there was something else that I heard them talking about on the Strong Style show. So definitely make sure that. We will be previewing G1 next week and talking about all of that good stuff, and we'll be talking about the Independence Day shows. Hopefully, we'll be talking about the fact that Tom Lawler was able to make it to the show, and we'll hopefully be talking about El Desperado and Moxley surviving the final death match. And so we'll be back next week at our regular time, and we appreciate you guys sticking with us for such a long time today.
Thank you.
Bye. See you next week.
Adios.